Well, Rich, one heck of an extended beatdown to end SmackDown tonight, putting a lot of spotlight on the destruction of Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes, with Kevin Owens not present, spending time with his family. Jacob Fatu very much getting spotlighted, taking out Austin Theory and or Grayson Waller at ringside, and then a devastating DIY. They go to a break. So Sokoa comes out, gives a speech about Jimmy Uso being not acknowledging him, and called out Roman Reigns, and then called out Cody Rhodes. And Cody Rhodes came out, had a stare down. Cody said, "I'd fight you now, but that's not how it works. But I'll defend my title against you at SummerSlam." So what we knew was coming is now official. And then a beatdown that at times felt like they just had 3 minutes to fill, and boy, did they fill it with a beatdown. And Orton gets the Shield three-way bomb through the table at ringside while Cody was tied up in the ropes. Great visual. This is, I mean, it's booking 101. You put a ton of heat on the heels at some point, building up a match and a feud. Tell me what you thought of what they did at the end of the show here.
Yeah, this is very reminiscent of some of Cody's dad's best work at the end of a show, especially with him tied up in the ropes, screaming "Take me instead." That was really powerful, and Orton did his role well. He ate everything. I thought that Jacob Fatu looks magnificent. I was just texting with Sean Radican about how his body's changed, but the wrestling style has always been there. And so them being able to overlook his indiscretions when he was 18 has kind of led them to get a hidden star for their roster. I mean, we haven't seen him in a match yet, and people are clamoring to see him just because of the intensity that he's bringing to this character.
So, how excited were you about Cody versus Solo before tonight? And what did this show you about what they can do to get you maybe uh, even you and a typical viewer more engaged in this?
I think it's a continued process. I'm excited more by the possibility of what's going to happen in this 6 man coming up, or whatever they're going to do in the next few weeks to
Yeah.
build to this, than I am the idea of, okay, Cody Solo. And I think there's no disrespect to the fact, because obviously Solo hadn't been set up as a singles person worthy of the world title, but the bloodline is asserting themselves even in this new iteration, that they're not just playing the hits. They're doing things in a way that might be a nod to what has happened before, but all of the new characters are doing it in a way where it's like almost a new season of a show. If it's
Mhm.
an anthology, they're different people playing different roles, but you still have those same beats you can rely on.
Yeah, so I agree with you that Solo is not the A opponent for Cody. I think Jacob Fatu they're setting up. There's a chance Jacob Fatu is going to be set up as sort of the henchman who isn't interested in titles. I mean, that's possible, but to me, it
Mhm.
seems like Solo is going to be the vocal leader, the intellectual leader, but Fatu's going to be the killer. And when you face him, that's the ultimate opponent. Now, they can't show that hand entirely now because they want to sell SummerSlam. But do you agree with that, or do you think Fatu is going to be like this hitman henchman type character who isn't interested in titles, can't even be corralled to follow the rules enough to not get disqualified? Therefore, he's just there to weaken people for Solo. Because I could see them going either direction with this.
I see him as one step forward. I think he's going to be that killer you're talking about, but I think he's going to be the person that's the hidden number one guy, the conciliary for the final boss, for The Rock. So when that moment does come where Solo feels like I'm the tribal chief, Roman's not here, you guys see me in charge, and then, Jacob does the thing where The Rock maybe nods and he nods, and then he's standing beside The Rock, and he's been his guy, or he becomes his guy. I think there's a lot that they can do with Jacob Fatu.
Yeah. So, talk more about Jacob Fatu. What are his
Yeah.
strengths, and are there weaknesses in terms of how they can utilize him? Like where in the next three? I mean, what you just described, very plausible and would be a very fitting role for him and what we've seen. Talk more about him. You have been an advocate for him for a while.
Yeah, sure. So I saw him first at an MLW taping in New York City, I want to say about 5 or 6 years ago. And he was a little heavier, but same move set. And he did it barefoot, which was to me insane at the time, doing double jump moonsaults, double jump Arabian presses, triple jump moonsaults. There was an incident which has been made famous by a GIF on Twitter of a fan starting a fight with him in the middle of a taping, and he just beat the holy heck out of the guy. And then when the guy tried to get up and keep talking, he just kicked him in the chest and then continued the match. And they kept that in the edit. Like that, it was just insane because it added this aura of him. I next saw him when Bruce Mitchell and I went to WrestleCade, and he was a cadre of the non-WWE signed Samoans. So is this table with the awkward, to this day, the awkward situation of the Steiner brothers being at two separate tables, and you'd have to buy a separate ticket to get an interview, or not an interview, an autograph or a picture with them, and pay them if you wanted a picture of them together. So until you took a picture with them, I did not see the Steiner brothers talk to each other, which is very, I was like, whoa. But then on the other side, all of the Samoans and all of the Tongans that were hanging out that weren't signed by WWE were just chilling with every single, like I talked with him for like 40 minutes, and it wasn't even like talking about just his career. And so it was just life. And he was just a cool dude. And so seeing that, and then like I said before, I for those who aren't aware, similar to Booker T, similar to MVP, when he was younger, he was arrested for armed robbery. But that's been the biggest issue. In fact, I was just sharing with Sean, one of the things he talked about when he'd been interviewed a few years ago was he was in prison and he saw his cousins, the Usos, on TV. And that inspired him to say, hey, there's another thing I can do. I can try to pro wrestle. And so seeing him as a wrestler, he's vicious. One of my favorite matches, I actually threw it on Twitter. There was a really good MLW match between him and Hammerstone for the open weight and MLW titles. But I shared on Twitter a match between him and Jonah Rock that they had at House of Glory Wrestling, because for folks, similar to what we talked about earlier during everything, if you wanted to take a look at something like him versus another super heavyweight, there's that match. If you also want to see yet another member of the bloodline that'll probably be here, let's see, 2024, by 2026, Zilla Fatu, which is one of the younger guys. They were in a tag match in GCW like a year and change ago, and they wrestled some guys. And seeing Zilla also is known for during Afa's funeral. He was the person that recorded Roman's speech. For those folks who saw that on social media, he was the family member that recorded that and gotten permission to share it with the public. I think that the sky's the limit for Jacob. I think, especially with WWE making the move of signing him, I think that, just like, again, when you think about, oh, wow, that's really cool, Derek. That's like, that completely like shut me down. Like that
you
is
read
just
that so quickly. That was amazing.
Oh, years. I mean, that's grad school. Years of having to speed read and then having a son, like a little guy, like burning the house down, and I got to read. Go ahead.
For podcast listeners, because most people are hearing us on a podcast after the fact, downloading the show, Derek Hubbard, a regular caller on the show, said, Fatu is impressive. Fun fact, I wrestled his dad, Tonga Kid, in 2006. It was at a Polynesian cultural event in Utah. Fun show. So Derek from Utah posting that. That's what stopped Rich in his tracks.
Yes, and it was worthy. I mean, that still blows. It's one of the fun things. This is before, I think it was like right after the first For the Culture show. I do want to note about going with Bruce to that WrestleCade show. All of the black wrestlers had gotten together for a photo, and I took a photo of them, and then Jacob took a photo to make sure that some of the people who missed the photo got in there. And he's just like I said, such a down the earth, similar to your stories about Roman, where he walks into the room and everybody like, that guy's cool. With Jacob, he walks into a room and I'm cool to talk to him. Like there is, even though he looks like this super intimidating guy, he's just very easy to talk to. And so I think the character you're seeing on TV, they can go so many places with it. I mean, we've seen, for those of you who've seen back in the day with John Cena, we talked about this on everything on Tuesday. I'm sorry. Him versus Cena is Umaga versus Cena all over again, with the family bloodline literally coming into play. I think that's a match I would love to see over in 2025 at some point. So I'm looking to see where this goes. I'm really excited, and obviously with everything going on in SmackDown, anywhere else you want to go, I'm game.
Yeah, well, people who don't want to see John Cena have a long retirement tour. They should be rooting for the first Netflix match to be Jacob Fatu against John Cena. John Cena's retirement tour is over. He's been forced into retirement early, and Jacob Fatu would be so over. Kids would fear him, women would be mad, a bunch of fans would be mad, but a lot of fans would see him as a hero. Just let's it'd be hilarious if it turns out Cena has like 6 movies he's got planned for 2025, and this whole thing is just to build up to retiring him on the first Netflix show on Raw. All right, I'm having fun. Yeah, no, that's honestly that's great backstory, great background. Yeah, I mean they've got a star with him, and I mean, some of the stuff he did in that attack, it's like a lot of wrestlers are told go out and be a killer heel, carrying cross, whatever. What he just did is top of the art craftsmanship of being a dominant, scary, intimidating killer heel. That was special, and it's going to get people's attention. And you know what it does is it does something that Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa could not do, and Solo Sikoa could not do. It makes this bloodline feel legit. And it sounds like a dig at the other three. The other three are fine, but this makes it feel different. You know, the Usos were this legacy tag team. Roman Reigns, a dominant but intellectual, head of the table. They didn't have this guy. This makes this bloodline different than the other bloodline, and not different in an inferior way, different in kind of an equal sort of menacing, threatening way that it just didn't have. And I think it actually gives Solo Sikoa more, he can be more intimidating because he has this guy fighting for him.
Yeah. When you think about, I'm a big comic books fan, and there's a group, you've seen it in the movies now, the Suicide Squad. When Holler puts together Task Force X, it's this list of people that no one wanted together. And that's how it looked when Solo was talking to Paul Heyman. And he's like, these are the guys we scouted. And Roman said, absolutely not. And of that list of people he said absolutely not, Solo was at the top of the list. And so if he being Solo can control what's going on with Jacob, that is, like you said, to your point, it's a feather in Solo's cap that he has that man, whatever that he knows to control that monster. That is, yes. And who was that? Mr. White? Not Walter White, but I think, was it Aaron White?
Azan, yep. Azan.
Oh, Azan. Oh my God, my man Azan. Yep. Always with the hot takes on the Everything mailbox. Azan. Oh, this is worlds colliding. I love it. Azan's take there. Oh man, no, I'm so sorry, Azan. Azan's point there about Solo's recruitment of Jacob and Jacob's moveset ties into what you're talking about, Wade. Because when you look at Jacob Fatu, he does see. You. That's right, Sean. I love you.
I gotta stop putting Rich. You can multitask. So I gotta stop putting comments up because it's throwing you off.
It is, but it's also like I can do that, and my brain is. That's why I'm like not looking while I'm trying to get the point across. Yeah. Jacob has taken what was the basic moveset of a Samoan or Polynesian wrestler, modernized it for 2024, and also sprinkled enough style in it where, as a big man, it's okay that he's doing these things, but he's not. The moonsaults aren't the thing. It's the viciousness of how much he's moving his body to get the moonsault done. It's not the Samoan drop. It's him throwing the guy up, catching him professionally, and then spiking him. The one that showed me, because I've seen...
Rich. It's another thing, and I talk about this all the time. It's what you do in between moves. It's not just the moves. And it's the pose he strikes before the move and the pose he strikes afterwards with the facial expression that matches. I just want to insert that too, because that's part of what I say is the craftsmanship of him as an attack heel, just this killer heel, is the menace in his poses and facial expressions. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and the tie-in to the menace, and that's what I was building to, is also the professionalism, because I've seen him in MLW, I've seen him in GCW, I've seen him in independent wrestling like House of Glory, and he's a professional. It's not like he shoots on people. But in WWE, we just saw him in the ring against Tommaso Ciampa, who we already know has a really bad neck. And he gave him that elevated Samoan drop and dropped him so carefully in that move so that he landed on his butt and his back. And you didn't even notice the difference between any other way he's done it. And that care, when I was like, oh, he's fine. He's locked in. He knows this is his shot, and he is going to knock this out of the park.
That's a great observation. Top level observation. And you're right. I mean, you're ruining his gimmick because you're making it seem like, hey, look at how professional and careful he is. But you're right, and that's going to make him. That's going to make this work for him. Derek adds, Corey and Wade deserve credit for adding to Corey Graves and Wade Barrett deserve credit for adding to the mystique and threatening nature of the new bloodline. They are providing appropriate lyrics to their music. Wade is so right. The mannerism before and after the moves gets the most out of the moves. So yeah, good input from the chat room from Derek. Rich, let me pause. We just gushed for 15 minutes about the final 4 minutes of SmackDown and a lot on Jacob Fatu. Let's pause and informally introduce ourselves and the show, especially for our podcast audience who are listening but not seeing the names under our faces. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Friday, July 12th, 2024. And I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter, and the website, PWTorch.com, updated with news, exclusive editorials and cool features, flashback articles, polls, and more, live TV and PLE coverage every night of the week, because we've got Impact coverage and NXT coverage, along with my reports on Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown. And we've got collision reports that go up on weekends, live PLE, pay-per-view coverage. So check it out. Please make it a daily stop. There's just content you're going to find at PWTorch you won't find on some of the other news sites that are valuable and just churn out SEO friendly headlines and headline stories. But I think what we do features some really strong writing and analysis in addition to the key headlines, including ratings reports, often breaking the ratings news before anyone else. Love WrestleNomics, but we're always racing to see who can get our numbers out first. Anyway, Brandon usually beats me, but often I get the stuff out first if I'm around. So check us out. The other voice here on the show is Rich Fann. He is a PWTorch columnist and PWTorch podcaster. He made a reference to it earlier. Everything is the name of his VIP podcast. I host it with Rich. Generally every week. We did 2 this week and then we missed a week, but generally once or twice a week, we just do a fun conversation hitting on a wide array of topics. We go 45 minutes to an hour and a half usually. That's part of our PWTorch VIP lineup. If you are not a VIP member, please go VIP, support us and what we do, and we'll give you a lot in return for your support. The graphic is on the screen for our YouTube viewers. You can pause that and sign up right now. You can pay through Apple Podcasts using your Apple account. You can pay through Patreon and support us that way, or just sign up directly through our main VIP sign-up page with credit card, debit card, or PayPal. All of that is detailed at pwtorch.com/govip. New VIP exclusive podcasts every day. Versions of our free shows, the Wade Keller podcast, Wade Keller post shows, and PWTorch daily casts with the pre-recorded ads and plugs eliminated. So when you hear the music going in and out of breaks, the music plays and we're right back to content. Saves you time and trouble and gives you a little bit something extra. A lot of other perks come with it when you get a full VIP membership, 35 years of archives of podcasts, retro radio shows from the 90s. We're almost up to being able to say thousands of back issues of the Pro Wrestling Torch newsletter. We're approaching 1,900 issues of the weekly newsletter, ad-free version of our website, and so much more. So check it out, pwtorch.com/govip. It is compatible with Spotify if you sign up through Patreon, and it's compatible with the native Apple Podcast app and CarPlay if you sign up directly with your Apple account or through our main VIP website. All right, so our email address, if you want to be part of the show that way, is wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. That's wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. We also invite you to be a video caller, or you can turn your camera off and just be an audio caller. The code for that is just for Patreon and VIP members. Go to our Patreon page if you're a supporter, or my TV report at pwtorchvip.com, and you'll find the invite code there, and then you can join us and be part of the show. The final way you can participate in the show is through our chat. If you will follow us, if you watch us on YouTube live after the show, you can be part of the show. Just enter questions and comments into the chat, and we'll incorporate some of them in there. You can also show some support for us with sort of a tip jar with super chats, and that is certainly appreciated. We definitely don't mind that. So feel free to do that. We had somebody already donate. Dana Greer, thank you for a $1.99 super chat. You didn't even leave any comments, so I can't reward you by reading your chat comment, but the support is appreciated, and others are always encouraged to join in. So Rich, just welcome. We had a busy day today. We did a 12-minute hot take that'll be up on our YouTube channel here soon, talking about Stephanie Bakir and her decision to sign with WWE, and we hit on a variety of angles on that, and then we also recorded a full episode of everything. Welcome to a post show. Less often that you appear on these than usual, but a great night to have you on.
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, typically I coach a high school football team here in Pittsburgh, and so a lot of times Friday nights are taken up there, and then my son does ice hockey, and definitely taken up there with tournaments. So this is a perfect storm of availability. He's downstairs sleeping off a sleepover where he did not go to sleep, which is the rule, when you're at that age and you're doing a sleepover. And so, yeah, this was great. It was a great night for watching SmackDown earlier today. Like you said, we had a great chat about Stephanie. I look forward to seeing her on WWE TV. For anyone that's in the general Mexico area that's a Torch subscriber. I would love if you could send in to Wade like a first person report of what happens when she wrestles this weekend, because I think that's going to be a treat.
Excellent. All right, Rich, let's pivot back to covering SmackDown here. And also on the show, we had the fallout from Money in the Bank with Tiffany Stratton at the top of the show celebrating her win. And then that led to Bayley coming out, and then Nia Jax coming out, and then Michin coming out. So we had Michin against Nia Jax, with Jax winning, no, not surprisingly, winning the match, and then Jax and Tiffany attacked Bayley after the match, which helped build up the Nia Jax challenging Bayley for a title. What'd you think of the opening segment of the show, Rich?
I liked it. I liked that Bayley established she isn't the same little girl that was scared of Nia early in her career. She isn't afraid to handle the disrespect that the youngster that is Tiffany Stratton is throwing at her. I especially love Tiffany because that is a very generational thing. My son does it all the time. Like 2019, that was like a million years ago. It's like, like similar to what's happened like pre and post pandemic. Yeah, it does seem like it's a million years ago. But to Bayley in her career, going from the innocent hugger to now this more mature woman that is not afraid of anyone or anything, I thought that was a good way to break that in. And then also for her to put the little wedge between Nia and Tiffany by saying, hey, okay, you got me at SummerSlam. Great. Let's say for the sake of argument, I slip on the banana peel and you win. Mm-hmm. How long is it until your little buddy turns on you? And we even saw the most polite interruption of a Money in the Bank I've ever seen. It was just like, excuse me, what are you doing here? What are you doing right now? It's like, ooh. And I enjoyed I don't know if that qualified as Minnesota nice, Wade, when Tiffany kept patting her on the back. It's like, okay, we can leave now. While you're gone, let me just hand this in. I greatly enjoyed that entire open. And Michin, she's fresh off of a stint on NXT when she'd been feuding with some of the ladies there. And so I thought this was a great way to reintroduce her into the ecosystem as well.
I like Corey Graves and Wade Barrett discussing Tiffany creating some planting seeds of dissension and drawing attention to that. I don't know if it'll turn into anything right away, but it's good when the announcers, pick up on it or have bullet points to draw attention to it. Ken Arnold in the chat says Bayley seemed really into what she was doing this week with Nia and Tiffany, a good promo and rebuttal. I'm glad, Ken, you said that, because as I was watching it, I thought the same thing. Bayley seemed engaged more than I have seen her in a while. It just felt like, yeah, okay, like I'm Nia Jax in my face. Tiffany thinks she's, all that because she won Money in the Bank, and she brought a vigor and an energy that she didn't feel like she was going through the motions, Rich. And I think lately, really, ever since her return from her pandemic injury, I just haven't. I mean, I'm not saying this was like for sure the highlight, but it felt different than average for her. What did you think?
Yeah, I think her role as the brains behind Damage Control allowed her to kind of figure out what her speed was going to be like, try to figure out what that transmission for her new wrestling engine was going to be. And you're right. I also think the comment that Nia made about her butt was something also that she wasn't ever comfortable with bringing up in the past. Like mentioning, oh yeah, you look like BBL Bayley. And it's like, well, in the past she had outfits that were more like anti-showing her form. Travis Bryant, my old partner over at the East Coast Cast, wrote a column years ago about titillation or combat ready. And Bayley has always been someone that was combat ready, and she's both combat ready and leaning into what her body is as she gets older and more mature. So I thought that was fun. And she seems to be like, again, like you said, a level of confidence that gives her the ability to walk into that room and know, I'm not the scared girl. I'm a Grand Slam champion, and I've earned the right to be in this ring, and you can't shake me.
Do you want to be the one to explain to Derek what BBL is, or should I?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
I've got
Brazilian
I've got
booty
an
lift.
anecdote. I've got an
Yeah, go
anecdote, by
for
the
it.
way, when you're done. No, explain.
Oh yeah,
Brazilian.
so two things. Well, you got the Brazilian butt lift, which is typically the cosmetic term for it. It's now in the zeitgeist of the mainstream because of the fact you had BBL Drizzy, which was a beat that was created in the Aubrey must go down in a blaze of horrible, horrible glory when Drake decided he wanted to try Kendrick Lamar and make fun of
Mhm.
other folks in the like Metro Boom, just decided to go after a lot of folks, and then the return was very CM Punk like in its response. It was definitely disproportionate. In fact, when I go to Toronto and at the end of the month, I will be going to the Chinese restaurant that Drake was mentioned as being in and pretending to be a tough guy as opposed to being a real tough guy. Just glorious. But I love to hear your anecdote.
Oh, my anecdote's a good one. So, a house near me was up for rent, and it got rented, and the new people who moved in were not very friendly to the neighbors. They just said, "Mind your own business." They didn't want to talk to anybody when, people saw them going to the mailbox. And then there were women, curvy women, outside the house wearing white bathrobes,
Uh-oh.
and it was weird. We're like, why are they just standing there in white bathrobes? And then they would walk down the street and back to get like fresh air and exercise in big white robes. And I was like, okay, I don't. Neighbors started speculating what is going on here. And we finally found out the people who rented the house turned it into a BBL recovery facility. You get surgery somewhere else, and then you get driven to the house, and you get pampered in the house. When they were done, when they were kicked out, basically, of that because they weren't licensed for it, they had to pretty much gut the house. The plumbing was all jammed up. It was just it was just it wasn't surgically sterile, and so yeah, the new people who lived there got it on foreclosure and gutted it, put hundreds of thousands of dollars into it, and it is now the nicest house in the neighborhood. But not long ago, it was a BBL rehab facility. So that's my up close anecdote. That's where I learned about what BBL stood for. That was a few years back.
I cannot stop laughing at the idea that it is BBL Mini. BBL Mini. That is, oh,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Wade.
Yes. Yeah, the women, Derek says a BBL rehab facility. Yeah, the women needed some time to heal up and recover, and they had white bathrobes. And all right, back to analysis here. I think I think Nia has done really good work. Stephanie Chase goes, great story, Wade. Thank you, Stephanie, for joining us live. She was my co-host after Dynamite this week. So check that out. And Brock Bedingfield says that is crazy. Oh, it was crazy. We didn't know for weeks, by the way, Rich. Neighbors were just like, what is going on there? And nobody would talk. The women who go in the house, they saw us, they just go inside. They were told, don't talk to anybody, because they weren't licensed to be there. And the people who were running it opened the garage door, drove in, and closed the garage door. They never became accessible. All right. Anyway, so yeah, I think Nia Jax's been good, and I think Nia Jax and Bayley and tonight added to it is a good SummerSlam women's title match, and I like the Nia Jax Tiffany alliance. Just speak a little bit more about that, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, they worked well, starting with Nia winning Queen of the Ring. They started to have a mutual admiration society. Nia then became a bit of a heater for Tiffany, and I think the combination of the two, the go old head, the Heckle and Jekyll or the Muttley, like they do a really good job of playing off of each other. There is a bit of mutual admiration now, but the tension is my favorite part about it, because now Nia is this irresistible force, immovable force. You have Tiffany as this absolutely arrogant upstart babe. She thinks she's the babyface, which is the best version of a heel. She cannot see for the life of her why people would think she's arrogant. Why people? I thought she was going to come out with the bedazzled like Tiffy and the Bank briefcase. I figured they had that made for her because that would have been perfect. But we'll see where that goes. But I'm greatly looking forward to the two of them as a tandem.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Again, you can give us a video call if you find our code at the VIP website or on Patreon. And you can also email us, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll keep an eye on the chat. Let's bring Rude Dog into the show. We won't make him wait this week, our first video caller. Rude Dog, welcome. Good to see you. What's the t-shirt this week? I'm trying to make it out here.
It's a Maki Ito, Chris Brooks shirt from DDT. When they had their tag team Neo there on his clothing line, Death by Roll Up. So
who is the cutest? Who is the cutest in the world? Is that what it says?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Nice. Cool. All right. So what's on your mind? What's on your mind?
Well, I don't want Derek to feel bad because I had to look up what BBL meant too, and it gave me a good chuckle after I found out what it was. But one thing in Tiffany's promo I thought was interesting, with her talking about her cash-in opponent, she mentioned Roxanne Perez with the NXT title, and that was unexpected for me. If you thought something like that could actually happen, would that be a step back for her since she's already been there, done that before? Or, like kind of the way like Austin Theory cashed in for the US title and it was pretty lame? Or would it be something more like when Charlotte challenged Rhea Ripley at WrestleMania after she won the Royal Rumble? What do you think?
So my quick take, Rich, I'll throw to you is this is to set up an appearance on NXT, and it's to elevate the prestige of the NXT women's title by having it be in the conversation. I do not expect it to be the cash-in. Rich?
I think this is a combination of things. One, this is, as we talked about earlier on everything, what happens when you have alignment from top to bottom in the company, from NXT up to the main roster, so you can have a conversation like this without it seeming like it's a step too far. So in the case of this, I don't think she's going to cash in on Roxanne, but it gives Roxanne the rub. It allows them to say NXT is a viable option for her to cash in, but we know it's most likely going to be one of the two main roster titles.
All right, Hendrik, Rude Dog.
All right, so LA Knight came out tonight, and he's still getting a great reaction. Like, are you surprised he's still as hot with the crowds as he is right now? And what do you think about him taking on Logan Paul at SummerSlam? Do you think he could actually beat him there?
So I thought LA Knight, Logan Paul was just the obvious match at some point to go with. I've been talking about that for a while and wasn't alone, obviously. It just seems like a really good verbal back and forth matchup. I like what they did this week, Rich, with LA Knight getting a contract, but not having Logan Paul there, but saying we're going to meet. It builds anticipation for it. I thought the announcers, and I'm not being critical of this, but I'm observing. I thought they oversold the crowd reaction for LA Knight, which is fine. LA Knight's gimmick is he's super over with the crowd, and they're totally into him. I thought Wade Barrett was a little over the top, and looking at the crowd, they were into him. But I thought it's a talking point to put over how over LA Knight is. But when Barrett said Knight is box office and the fans are losing their minds, I was like, I'm not quite sure I'm seeing that. I felt a little short of that. But LA Knight is over, and I'm not surprised. LA Knight's got he didn't overstay his welcome. They have him come out. He does the catchphrases. Boom, he's in. It's high energy. He gets out before that energy level drops. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, he comes out. Let me talk to you. Hits the high notes. Goes. I think that's perfect for him right now. Next step is going to be what happens after Logan Paul. To your point, I think that Logan is going to lose to him at SummerSlam, and I think that's a great place for LA Knight to get that sort of attaboy for the work he's done. And I think some of what's happening with the commentary is a fair trade for realizing from a booking standpoint they weren't going to push him to the level of the crowd reaction earlier. And so now as it's coming down a little bit, they are going to give him a little bit of that push. So they're trying to make up for it.
Yep, fair enough. Hendrik, back to you.
Well, and speaking of SummerSlam, like it seems like it's a long time away, but I mean it's like 3 weeks away basically. And
Yeah.
what do you think of the matches so far? Besides the LA Knight Logan Paul match, which isn't officially scheduled, but I'm sure will happen. I mean, nothing really seems like major marquee matches to me. I mean, they all seem decent, but what do you think about the matches that have been announced so far? And is it leading up to an epic PLE?
I think that's a fair comment, Rich. I mean, Damian Priest is champion. Doesn't feel like he can headline a SummerSlam at this point even though Gunther is very, very, very much on a trajectory to being a centerpiece top star. Solo Sikoa, despite my praise earlier, still feels like borderline a SummerSlam heel opponent for top star Cody Rhodes. That'll be the final match in the show, I'm quite sure. Bayley and Jax, they built up nicely, but it's not, I don't know. It doesn't feel like Jade Cargill versus Bianca Belair for the first time whenever they go that route. And LA Knight, Logan Paul, obviously likely to happen. Something with Orton in the Bloodline, Orton and KO against the Bloodline. Yeah, I mean, it's shaping up all right. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, as it's standing right now, you guys mentioned you got the King and Queen of the Ring. We just had the second world title match set up. On the other side, I'm assuming it's going to be Liv Rhea. Again, makes sense.
Yep.
Chalk.
Maybe that
it's
headlines.
Cleveland. I'm assuming on the
Liv and Rhea, couldn't they?
What's that?
Could they headline with Liv Rhea?
I think they could.
Yeah.
And then on the undercard or pre-show, I'm assuming it's going to be R-Truth versus Miz or something of that nature.
Oh, God.
Because you're in Cleveland. Miz is a heel now. They'll do something like that on the lower card. If Punk's healthy enough, Punk Drew. And I think that's cooking. I think in a perfect world where you can just have an egalitarian main event, I would say that's the one based on its story that deserves a main event. But I realize that they have to, and like you said, with some most likely a bloodline situation, tag titles, and Braun Breaker, Braun and Sammy. I think that's going to be another.
You're describing an ensemble show, like in the sense that it's not going to be super top heavy. Hendrik, I think you're good in pointing that out. Liv and Rhea could close the show, and people would be okay with that. Cody Solo probably will close the show. They could, if Punk is healthy, do Punk versus Drew 1-on-1. Maybe they're going to save that and do a triple threat, or save that and do Seth and Drew first, or what? I mean, there's different ways that could go, and it depends on when Punk gets cleared and what they decide. But I think, Rudog, you're right. I think it's kind of looking like an ensemble show where, to me, an ensemble show, one way to define it is if you ask, let's say 20 wrestling fans to list the most important 5 matches in order, you would get every combination of those 5, or just about every combination of the 5. Like different matches would be listed last by 20 fans if you ask them who are following the product. In all, there'd be a real variety of order of matches, and I think that's what we're looking at this stage. There's a few more weeks to go. Maybe they cement 1 or 2 or 3 feeling bigger than the next 2 or 3. But at this point, other than Cody being a big star and the Bloodline being the top heel act, nothing really stands out above the others. Go ahead, Ruda.
All right. Well, one quick thing that I heard earlier in the show is like when they announced it was going to be A-Town Down Under against DIY, who Johnny Gargano, another Cleveland guy, might have a big match there or some kind of match. But they said that A-Town Down Under is like invoking their rematch clause. And I was like, wait a second, I thought that went away a long time ago. So is that back, or did someone misspeak, or what do you think about that?
I think they just throw that term around when they want, and they don't talk about it when they don't want to. Rich, what do you think?
I think this is one of those, just like the secret, you're only allowed to interfere once, and then I'm going to call it DQ. It's one of those secret things they don't ever want to talk about out loud. And just like I wish I had it here. If I had known, I would have brought it out of my bedroom. But I have the WWE rule book to the chagrin of my main man Travis, and I would have pulled it out and looked to see what page it's on and the why behind, because they did a good job in the book of keeping it within the storyline but also explaining why they do certain things. But yeah, I'm completely on that.
All right, Hendrik, anything else for us?
All right, one last thing. Blair Davenport, she had a short vignette and then a match tonight. I was a fan of hers pre-WWE, and she didn't really do too much of anything on NXT, which I was surprised when she got drafted to SmackDown. Do you think she has a chance on the main roster, or is she just going to be like the next Candice LeRae, where she's talented but always loses?
What do you think, Rich? I think people are surprised by what happened tonight.
I think this is the start of seeing where she goes. When Wade and I are on everything, I usually talk about the idea of folks getting put to the water level they've kind of risen to. This is the opportunity, especially in the Triple H regime, where you can just see where you're at. They're not trying to presume where Blair Davenport's going to wind up. They're just throwing her out there, seeing how she interacts. If she does great, great. If not, she'll find her level, and then they'll move on. I thought her time in Japan before she got signed by WWE was great. I wrote an article at the time when she left New Japan, when Ospreay during the pandemic hit her. And it was at a time, especially with the pandemic, where there was a rising number of domestic violence cases in Japan. And it was something that the Japanese female audience really didn't take to. And so I'm really happy to see her get that opportunity here, Rude Dog, in WWE in particular. And so I'm interested to see, because she was okay in NXT. I thought she didn't necessarily have too much going on that really said, wow, we have to see her on the main roster. So I think this is an experiment. See how she's doing. And worst case scenario, much like in Emma, if this doesn't work out, they could always bring her back down, get her cooking a little bit, and then bring her right back up.
Cool. Hendrik, thank you. Good topics.
Yeah, that'll do it. Thank you, Wade. Thank you, Rich. It's a pleasure to talk to you, and have a great night.
Excellent.
Likewise.
Thank you. All right. Again, if you are joining us live and you wonder how do these people become video callers, you have to be a PWTorch VIP member or Patreon supporter. PWTorch.com/GoVIP will tell you all about all the benefits and how to sign up and how to get all of our VIP exclusive podcasts and archives and ad-free versions of our shows, ad-free website and all that. Speaking of which, one of them is Derek from Utah. Derek, welcome. Good to see you. You've been in the chat. What have you got to bring us here on the video call?
Yeah, so I guess a question for you. Like you guys mentioned, I'm intrigued by the relationship between Tiffany and Nia. I think that's interesting, could be fun, but obviously right now you're already seeing Tiffany get some positive fan reaction, no matter how heelish she comes across. And so I see her as a cash-in that is going to be successful as a champion in waiting, but in being the champion, do you see her cashing in on Bayley to maintain a heel status? Or do you think if she cashes in on Nia, that is a good way to start a babyface turn? So do you see it that quick? And which of those possibilities do you find more appealing?
I don't want it to happen that quick. Rich, how about you?
No, I think if they're going to do it, because that's very reminiscent if they did do it that way. And I will say, given this, I'm going to say first, I don't think they should do it, but this is very reminiscent of the way what happened with Bryan Danielson when he won Money in the Bank and Big Show was tutoring him to show more of a killer instinct. Big Show then wins the title. He cashes in on Big Show, and it's like, I taught the guy too much.
What do you what over under on how long Tiffany and Nia remain together, Rich?
I would say until maybe Survivor Series. I think it's going to last for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think that's a good over under, right around there. Derek, what else?
Yeah, I guess my next point is it seems like in the Bloodline promo that Solo kind of alluded to, he's coming for the championship, and then the other Bloodline members are coming for the tag team championships. And then obviously when Jacob Fatu post-match and the tag title match came out and just destroyed DIY, do you see DIY versus some incarnation of the Bloodline at SummerSlam for the tag team titles?
That makes a lot of sense. I think Tonga and Loa against DIY is a good use of those two. and it gives DIY. Yeah, I mean, they should have reason for revenge after what happened. It explains why, one, they won the tag titles and why they got a rematch this week to set up the run-in and why it was placed where it was. So, yeah, Derek, I could totally see that happening, and I don't know if anything else jumps out to me as making more sense. Rich?
No, I think that makes tons of sense, and I'm hoping that allows them at Cleveland Brown Stadium to debut their Gorillas of Destiny war paint when they wrestle big tag matches. I think that'll also add a little bit more personality to them that's missing in a way that it isn't necessarily with, say, Jacob.
And I think what I like most about the idea is I think we all kind of discussed this over the last few months, is the tag team divisions on both Raw and SmackDown have been suffering, just have not got a lot of attention. And then when they finally split the belts, they were split in a way where they both went to tag teams that weren't really meant to be taken seriously. And so I think over the last 2 weeks, allowing the tag team title match to main event the show last week and then doing a rematch with the definitive finish this week, you're already kind of building a foundation for tag team wrestling to be more important in SmackDown's profile. And then if you give those tag titles to the Bloodline, and they are obviously the heel fixture of SmackDown over the last 3 years, I think now the tag division is a lot more important, where you have babyface teams gunning for a top team who are at the top of a tag division. And so I think that's the most promising aspect of doing a match of that nature at a big show like SummerSlam.
Derek, do you have a dog running around in the background? Is that in your mic?
I do. In fact,
I'm not complaining. I just want to see them.
Oh, 1 second. If they let me pick them up, they're in their rambunctious state.
I'm hearing this dog just running around in the background. Mine is peacefully sleeping about 4 feet to my right, so I can't get him over here.
Here's one of them.
He's
fighting the other one.
What's his
name?
They're
not actually my dogs. I'm babysitting my mom's dogs.
Oh, okay. That makes a little more sense, I gotta be
son.
honest. Looking at you and looking at that dog, it makes sense you're babysitting your mom's dog. If owners look like dogs.
Hey, what are you trying to say?
Actually, the beard.
I should have a poodle? I should have a poodle?
Match. The beards match. The beards match.
Oh.
I could see you too.
Yes.
No, that's great.
This is my boy.
We encourage all video callers to show us their pets, their cats, their dogs. If you have a pet robot, like I do, also you can show off Vector or whoever your robot is. Also, told a sad story about Vector needing a soldering iron to get his battery updated because his battery died, and it's not a replaceable battery. I don't know what they were thinking, making it so difficult to bring him back to life, but I'm determined to find someone to do that. Anyway, Derek, you asked a question and I got derailed by all the dog jingling. So just give me a couple keywords to remind me.
Prestige of the tag team titles being elevated.
Absolutely. Yep. That brought it all back. Yeah. So Rich, smart. I mean, sometimes we watch and we go, what are they doing? And my theory was last week they wanted to give fans in Toronto something of importance who went on Friday instead of Saturday. They didn't want it to seem like a filler show. So we give them a tag team title match. It's like, ooh, DIY, is this, this just feels like filler. And then they won the title. So you paid big money. You're part of that big weekend. We gave you something historically significant, but that might've been all it was. They weren't really going to elevate the tag titles, but now the rematch, the Bloodline attack afterwards, SummerSlam around the corner. I mean, this seems like an attempt. I mean, I know AEW and WWE are sniping at each other left and right in so many different ways. Cryptic comments on TV, not so cryptic comments on TV, social media, signings, whatever. If Paul Levesque wants to stick it to Tony Khan and AEW loyalists, have a much better tag team division than AEW. That's one way to do it, because this was a t-shirt / tag team company early on, as people talked about, and the tag division has gotten weak. Rich, your thoughts?
I think this is a good opportunity for them to highlight. We talked about this a little earlier today. You have one of the better tag teams New Japan's had in the last few years in the Gorillas of Destiny. You have them against a team that got a tag title that essentially was kind of their Lifetime Achievement Award for dealing with all the BS they had to, being pulled up and down and all the other crazy stuff that happened as Vince McMahon was ruining what was a solid feud and made them partners on the main roster. Remember all that craziness, guys? Peckbridge Farm remembers. And so I think this is a way to atone for that and all of the good work they've done at the NXT level when they had the chance to shine. And this is also another shot for Triple H to have his boys show what good tag team wrestling looks like while also tweaking the nose a little bit, like you said, of AEW. So it's a win-win-win for him and for those folks involved.
I brought my very groggy dog onto my lap here. He doesn't know quite what's going on. He's still in a dream state, but he is. Say hi, Emo. All right. He wants to go back taking his nap. So I will let him. There you go, bud. You can go back to sleep. It was very hot today, and he got a couple walks, so he is exhausted, but I had to give him a little camera time. Now he's looking at me like I'm crazy. All right. Very good. Derek, anything else?
Nope, that's it. And I think just a last follow-up on that is I think if you actually look at the depth chart of tag teams in WWE, you're always surprised at how many good tag teams they really have. Now is just a good time to let those tag teams showcase what they're about. We saw Berto and Angel today. That could be a good tag team. I think Pretty Deadly as a character tag team could be really interesting. I just hope that they actually get some attention in the tag division. And I think giving them to the Bloodline and having a good tag match, solid tag match against DIY is a good way to start that. Yeah. So thanks, guys. You guys have a great night and a great weekend.
Likewise.
Thanks, Eric. You too. Appreciate it. Stay cool, everybody, if you can. All right, Sean, you are up. Well, Sean from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, our next video caller. Welcome. I didn't give you any warning. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to do that. How's it going? What's on your mind about SmackDown tonight?
I'm doing well. Rich, I've been giving Wade a hard time. I know he said it, but I'm saying I'm giving him a hard time because he, would make me, supposedly quote unquote wait for 2 hours. And then I'm like, I don't know what to say, Wade, because it's 2 hours. You got to get the show to the producer. I don't know what to say, but no, it's fun being on. Rich, my first time being on with you, man, on here on YouTube. So man, it's good to talk to you, man. How have you been?
I'm good, likewise. And I listened to you and Jason a couple of weeks ago when I'll say that our main man there was on assignment. Was he in Australia? Where was he? Where was Mr. Fairplay? I could not recall.
Oh, well, I don't remember now either. I'm drawing a blank right now. Actually,
yeah, because he's here, he's there, he's
Toronto.
everywhere.
Was he in Toronto?
He was in Toronto because he predated all of the WWE pay-per-views. It's like the appearance of Johnny Fairplay declares. It's like when the Pope is declared and they get the white smoke. If Johnny shows up in your city, in your country, you're getting a WrestleMania or a WWE PLE.
Yeah, it's always fun getting to talk to Jason and Johnny. I could gush about them all day, but we're on this show. Going back to, I didn't get to hear a little bit of the early part of the show, so if you talked about this, forgive me, but I had my thoughts about this. Well, first, just going about what you just talked about, if they have to go to a tag team title feud, in my opinion, because if Fatu just comes in, which I love Fatu, I love what he's doing. You guys made great points. I'm with you. But when you just destroy your tag team champions, if you're just destroying your tag team champions for no reason other than to look strong, it just, your tag team division, again, is already weak. So it just weakens it even more. I think you have to build a story with DIY to go after them in some way. But then it's like, well, DIY, to me, if you go up against the Bloodline, I hope they would win, but I don't know how you would do that at this point. You could tell a story, obviously, to get there, and I hope they tell a great story to get there. But that worried me when that happened. Were you guys worried when he initially came out and attacked them, or were you just thinking this is going to be a story?
I was worried Vince McMahon had taken over booking for one segment, and it was just, let's destroy tag teams because the main event singles heel is going to just destroy and treat them like jobbers. I think there was something else going on here. I'm hopeful, and at this point, obviously, based on my previous answer, I'm optimistic of that being the scenario as Derek brought it up. But yeah, Rich, did it cross your mind? This is where two top tag teams get destroyed by one heel, and they had the excuse of having been through a grueling match, but still.
I wasn't worried about it, but I was worried about the health status of some of the folks, like particularly Johnny and not Johnny Fairplay, Johnny Gargano and Ciampa. And so, like I mentioned earlier, and you might not have heard it, Sean, the big thing that was reassuring to me was all of the spots that Jacob Fatu specifically did with Tommaso Ciampa with his bad neck. They looked horrible, but he landed in ways where Tommaso landed with the elevated Samoan drop on his butt and his back. He was very careful. Even when Wade talked early, he talked about the beauty of the moves between the moves that Jacob Fatu does. One of the examples of that is, and I don't even know if you mentioned this, Wade, or thought about it, one of Wade's big bugaboos when it comes to setting people up for moves is the wrestler getting into place and making it look perfect. For the double jump Arabian press, he just stomped Johnny Gargano into position and then did the spot.
That was nice.
It wasn't just scooch, 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 move. It was kick, 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 snarl, double jump.
Yes.
Holy crap, he's doing an Arabian press. And so he landed it perfect. Then he hits Ciampa with the elevated, does the triple jump moonsault, and it got enough elevation that it was a flat splash bump by the time he flipped around as opposed to just landing on his knees, which to me, given his age and given that he has just lost that weight, that's setting him up so that he can do this gimmick for years and years and years instead of just, I'm a heavier dude landing on my knees, and now all of a sudden I got to avalanche people when I'm landing, and that's going to lead to more injuries, and this guy's not working the WWE style, et cetera, et cetera.
Good point. Good conversation. What else, Sean?
Yeah, so I wanted to bring up, you guys just brought it up too. Like, I think SummerSlam's really a really big card. I disagree. I mean, you have three.
Well, ensemble doesn't mean
matches.
it's not big. Ensemble doesn't mean it's not big, but make your case for the big three.
Well, I mean, with Cody solo, I mean, it sells itself. It's Cody against the Bloodline, the biggest story we have going right now. I mean, it sells itself. I mean, that's huge. And then Liv Rhea, I mean, I'm not the biggest Liv fan, but she's really good as a heel right now. And Rhea's one of the biggest stars in the company. So, I mean, it's going to be a huge match. It's a great story. It's really, they're going to build up to it. I think it's going to be. And then Punk Drew, I mean, if Punk's healthy, it sells itself. I mean, it's three huge matches just right there. And then LA Knight, Logan Paul, to me, is a big match. I mean, it's two big. LA Knight's over. I mean, Logan Paul's a big star. He's a great heel. I mean, I that's four to me. Big matches with, assuming if Roman does even come back, which I'm assuming he will. To me, that's it right there. And then I think the other assembly matches they put in will be fine for what they are. But I think it's on track to be a really, really fun show. I think it's big time. I really do.
Rich, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a solid, like you said, ensemble. But to Sean's point, that doesn't mean it's going to be, why do we have all these matches? I think it's just going to be, there's so many little things. It's almost like going to a sampler, like going to a buffet, and you're getting a little bit of this, a little bit of this. It isn't going to be something where you're overwhelmed by one flavor. You're getting a lot going. I also think because it's going to be a pay-per-view in a stadium, they're going to want that energy up. And so I think a lot of those matches are going to reflect that in what they're doing in it. DIY versus what I assume to be the Gorillas of Destiny in terms of Tama Tonga and Tangaloa. That means they're going to have a lot of guys. If anything, Sean, not our Sean here, but Sean Radican and I were discussing about the potential of, if you have, I know people have been making fun of the name, they copyrighted, but if they have Hikuleo, who is Taula, his middle name is Taula, but if they do Taula Tonga instead of Tala Tonga, and he helps interfere so that DIY loses the tag titles, you're adding another element to the bloodline. You're adding another brother. So now you have this whole faction of the Sons of Haku. And then you have the other side, the family side of the Anoa'i. And so you have like even a little mini faction in between that could lead to stuff down the road. I feel like in addition to whatever's going on with Solo and Cody, they need to figure out a singles match for Jacob Fatu where he just destroys someone. Maybe it's Randy. Maybe it's Kevin Owens coming back now to avenge Randy. And they say he's so distracted by the illness to his mom and taking care of house stuff that then it leads to him getting smoked. And then Randy is, I don't know, like you can sell it as Randy gets a title match and he realizes, I shouldn't have been looking out for you, Cody. I did all this to watch your back and I paid for it. And now I got to go back to the old me and be the apex predator, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and then you have, again, you could say we've argued the point for Priest, and I don't disagree. I just think it's a good match, him and Gunther. It's a really good – Gunther's a big star. I'm missing one right now. Braun and Sammy, like you said, Braun and Sammy's going to be a great match. Like, I'm really psyched about this card. And not saying that you weren't psyched about it. I'm just, holding out the hope that this is going to be a great show. I'm really pumped about the show that they're building up to. And going back to Randy and Cody, what you were just bringing up, because I think that's eventually where they're going. I just want them, because I think Randy Cody is the match to build up to after Solo. And I think knowing that they have the backstory, knowing that Cody supposedly should know Randy better than anybody, they have to be careful. They can't make him look bad. He can't do what he did with AJ. He can't do that. He's a lovable babyface. The fans love him. He's got that emotional part to him, but you have to really be careful. So I'm wondering what you guys think about how they might play that and how really on guard they have to be for it when it comes.
It's good to bring that up because Randy sat next to Cody early in the show and said, "I got your back tonight." And then he said, "When you retain against Solo, everyone's coming after you, and I'll have your back then too." But he said it in a way that's like, "I might attack you from behind," is what I took from it. There was a subtext there. I'm going to keep you safe until you're not safe when you turn your back to me. It planted seeds for that. I like it. We ran a poll at PWTorch.com. We did a hot take earlier this week, Greg Parks and I, on potential Cena opponents at WrestleMania next year. And we looked at the pros and cons of some of them. I kind of was dismissive of Randy Orton. I'm like, do people really want to see that again? We ran the poll at PWTorch.com. Randy Orton, number one vote getter. That's the match people want to see Cena against at WrestleMania. Sean's rolling his eyes. I'm with you, Sean, but it is his most famous opponent. I guess I'm hedging as I say that, but because it was his most frequent opponent. Randy's a big star. Rock's the most famous of his opponents, obviously, and we can make arguments about other ones. But if Randy turns heel, and I'm not even advocating for that because you can do Cody Randy and not have Randy go full heel. Just say I want a title shot. I'm the Viper. I just do what I do. There's a parable about a snake, I believe, that would work. But he could, if he did turn heel, it does set him up to be the heel against Cena. So he can go back to being the legend killer, with Cena being the legend this time, even if Randy is basically Cena's age. Who's older? I guess Randy's a little younger. But yeah. So anyway, chat room not thrilled about Cody, Randy. But I think we're going to get it because Cena's going to do enough matches next year where that's very likely. So, Rich, your thoughts?
Yeah, to help you with the stats, because of course I'm going to be that guy. Cena has faced Randy Orton in terms of televised matches.
Oh no,
77 times.
Oh my God, Rich, why did you do that? Oh,
and so to Wade's point, I liked it because in my head, the reason I had to look this up, in my head when you said his most frequent opponent, I thought of Adam Copeland.
Oh,
Adam Copeland only wrestled him 52 times.
Yeah, I was going to say I would have Randy significantly ahead of Copeland. That would have been my estimate. I'm not sure.
25 matches ahead of him.
High, but yeah.
And being a nerd, well, I'll give you the top 5. Who do you think is in his top 5?
Good question. JBL?
No.
Good, Josh.
Okay. Figured they did a bunch of house show matches. Who do you think, Sean? Who else is in Cena's top 5?
And these are televised. If I went into cage match and did house shows, it'll be an absurd number, and I don't think people were ready to hear that number for Randy Orton.
Yeah, I don't think
so. Just 77 television and pay-per-view matches.
I was thinking
how many matches
Sheamus, maybe?
No.
How many matches has the third place person had, Rich?
Yeah, really.
41 with him. 41.
Really? Oh, then it should be obvious.
I know. I know him and Punk didn't have that many matches.
What's the first name start with?
B. Oh, with 41 or with the number 2?
Batista.
No.
No?
Well, that's not his first name anyway.
Help us out, chat. We feel like idiots right now.
Braun Breaker.
Out of the 5, only 2 are in the company at the moment.
Oh gosh.
Chat room is not jumping in here.
I know. Help us out, guys.
I already gave you Edge. Edge had 52.
Someone gets
Big Show.
Big Show, 55.
I was going to say Big Show. I didn't go.
Wow.
I was thinking it, but I didn't say it. Jeez.
Number 4 is in the company.
What first name begins with?
Or
only name?
First name begins with T.
I'm trying to read your facial expression and tone. What does that mean?
Good
To me, it doesn't, but you have to because that's how his name is said.
Oh, Tsunami Tom.
No.
This is good. This is a good video, guys.
I don't even know how to process. No,
The Miz.
not Tsunami Tom.
Okay, The Miz.
There you go.
Oh,
42
okay,
matches.
Gosh, The Miz, of course.
Ryan
Thank
Gray,
you,
who's our on-site correspondent, standing by to join us in a moment, tipped me off for The Miz. Others guessed Miz, and I was like, well, that didn't start with a T. And then, Ryan says The Miz. All right, so we got a
and the last person is also a one-name person who.
Batista. I already said Batista.
He's more known for his wild policy now than his pro wrestling.
Oh, Jesse the Body Ventura.
One name.
Trump.
What in the world? Get back to wrestling.
You said
Good
wild
wrestling.
policy. They are.
Yeah, and he only went by one name.
Wrestling.
He went by one name.
And he has a wild policy. Oh, Rock. I don't know. I'm too
him and Shaw Waltman had a really awkward feud. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. I was too busy making. I was too busy making bad jokes about people into politics with policy than I was thinking about it. But yeah, obviously.
Milano, well done. Praise to you in the chat.
I'm staying away from that.
That was fun.
No, I think Rich, talk about the Randy Cody stuff real quick and what you think about how they have to be careful with that if he does turn.
I think it's Dusty Rhodes 101 because you're talking about the history with Legacy, how much he's on the line. You just had him scream. I mentioned that before you got on, Sean. Cody screaming as he's in the ropes. Like basically the wrong kid died. Like take me instead. Like please don't do anything to Randy, this big 300-pound man. Please, whatever you wanted to do to that giant hulking man, do to me instead. He can't take it. Like it's like the lineman. What is it? Billy Bob in Varsity Blues, where it was like 3 concussions away from no longer be able to play football.
Such a good movie.
It is, and so that's what he's like. My God, like just the fact that Cody went that far to me means that when Randy turns on him, it's going to be like they're going to show the pictures of Cody like meekly going up to Randy when they first started wrestling, and he's like, I didn't want you in Legacy. I needed you in Legacy, and I thought that you would pick up Dusty's legacy, but instead you're a disappointment. And then instead of getting angry, Cody has the single tear roll down his cheek. And he's like, I never thought you'd turn on me. Like, I'm here for it. It is everything it's as bad as a bad episode of Justified as you're going to get in WWE television.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it too. You said it's Ryan that's the on-site correspondent?
Yep.
His first name? Yeah. So yep. I'm excited to hear his thoughts on the show being there live. Real quick. So you guys just talked about it earlier. Blair Davenport don't have a vignette and then have her lose. I don't know. I don't like that.
Because now when there's a vignette, you don't think they're necessarily going to win.
No, true, but you're trying to to me and Naomi again. I've said it, and I'm not going to badmouth her anymore. I'm just saying losing it. The match was very sloppy. I thought I didn't care for the match and. I just think Blair she still has potential. It's only 1 loss. She only had 2 matches. So I'm not saying she's done or anything. I just think if you have a vignette and just have her lose, it just felt like, okay, well, she's not as big of a deal as we thought. And maybe there's something, but I'm excited to see where they go with her. And then going back to Tiffany at the very beginning of the show, I'm a Tiffany fan. I love what they've done with Tiffany in the sense of making her feel like a big star, making her feel like a big deal. As much as I love It's Tiffy time, that's all she's got right now. That promo at the beginning was so bland and so basic. And I was like, man, you got to have more. You got to do more to get me invested in what you're doing than just saying it's Tiffy time. And this is my Tiffy time to be Money in the Bank. And it's Tiffy time for me to be champion whenever that is. I'm a little worried.
So here's what I would say to that. 1, I don't need Tiffany Stratton's character to give me MJF length promos standing mid-ring. I mean, I'm fine with her not doing it. I think it made sense for her to be out there because of the sequence of what happened next. But she did just go, it's Tiffy time. I won Money in the Bank. Others didn't. It's my time, not theirs, whatever she said. And then saying the 3 champions aren't safe. And then Bayley comes out. I mean, she was in the ring not to give an epic promo, but to be arrogant about winning. I think Money in the Bank winners should have an in-ring ceremony of sorts. They should get, but she's not someone I would normally put in the middle of the ring. And just to push back, Sean, I just don't think she needs to be. She doesn't. I think Roman Reigns needed to be able to deliver good go-home babyface promos as a babyface world champion. He was the first world champion of any length in history that I've watched wrestling. Call me out if I'm wrong on this. Who didn't have that skill set and didn't even try it. He didn't even try. He needed that. Tiffany doesn't need to be able to do her character speaks for itself. Her like Andrade, empty arena. If you need 4 takes, you do it. He sits in the empty arena in the seats. That's or video packages. That's how you use him. Different wrestlers use in different ways. Tiffany is a backstage person or interrupting someone, that kind of thing. So I'm okay with that. If she develops that skill, great. But I don't want a roster full of people with that skill, to be honest, because that's a boring show if everyone has 7 minutes to talk in the middle of the ring. So I'm okay with it, Rich. I thought she portrayed her character well. What do you think, Rich?
Yeah, I think as long as she maintains this arrogance, and like I said before, when she came in and said, you won the Money in the Bank in 2019, that's like a million years ago. That's a great way to show how much of a jerk she is to Bayley. And I think that keep that up, keep that energy up, because I think that's what's going to maintain her, even though people keep saying Tiffy time whenever she does come out.
Sean, anything else for us before we get to Ryan?
Yeah, and I just want to say too, like it was just something I was thinking about. It's not that I'm worried about it yet. It's too early, but you're
not banned from the show for a bad take on Tiffany. It wasn't a bad take. I just pointing out I don't need her to do long promos.
Exactly.
I get what you're saying.
And love what Nia's doing right now. Love what she's doing right now. She's improved so much from when she was in WWE before. And I want to say the best line of the night was Wade Barrett when LA Knight came out, was talking about his loins tingling. I just cracked up. I just thought that was hilarious. Are your loins tingling? Because mine sure are. I was like, no, they're not tingling. I'm excited, but my loins aren't tingling. So
wait. Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
I just see JD.
About that.
I just think Carlito's just about to jump in and do a run-in on the show.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
So
the different kind of comment, then that's cool. But yeah,
thankful to be this platform's great. Rich, it's good to talk to you, man. And Wade, it's always a pleasure, man. Go VIP, everyone.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate the plug. All right, Ryan, get ready. We're bringing you on, our on-site correspondent who attended tonight. Ryan, you need to center yourself. You're on a very, very small screen slice here. You got to go against your instincts. Move it the opposite.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Rich, Wade, what's going on, guys?
Not too
much, good sir.
Still trying.
I gotta say, okay. Rich, I'm saying bye to you first. Well, no, I'm gonna say bye.
Right, Wade has left the building. He'll be back. He's going back to his home planet.
How's it going?
I want to show off this. Can we do is this just going to screw up the show if I do a solo layout for the Wrestling Challenge banner? Look at that.
No.
Oh, that's nice.
I think that's awesome.
I love that.
And I love that the WWF is superimposed with the WWE Smackdown on top of the Wrestling Challenge.
Yeah, this is cool.
There you go. Yeah, a little old school. I got a whole basement full of wrestling stuff, but
There, we'll do this shot so we can see more of the Wrestling Challenge for a minute here. So Ryan, thank you. First, talk about the energy in the crowd tonight and what seemed to be the highlight for them.
All right, the highlight for them probably was A, Cody Rhodes, and probably B, LA Knight, with a very close A and B there. It was extremely hot in the building. There was about 8,500 people in there and they were probably set up for
85 degrees.
Yeah, also that as well. And they were probably set up for close to 9. So yeah, it was a very packed arena, a pretty old arena, and the air condition was probably not up to speed. So it was a very hot, but the crowd was kind of matched the energy when they were kind of peaking and ready for it. Overall, it was a pretty good B episode of SmackDown, I thought. Very energetic crowd for the most part, and they were into who they were supposed to be into, and maybe perhaps with some experiments on the WWE side, the crowd was letting them experiment. Let's put it that way. So overall, good crowd.
Talk about the show closing angle. It went on a while. It seemed like the crowd was into it. Talk about the show closing angle in general, but also Jacob Fatu's presence as this kind of just monster heel on the attack.
Yeah, so when he came out and attacked A-Town Down Under and DIY, that was like oh wow, it was like a shock to the crowd, and then they instantly had the attention and all that energy went to Fatu, and he just like looked and felt like a star in that arena. I don't know if it's just me, guys, but I think he totally outshines Solo in this potential role. And you know, it's Solo right now for sure, but I think they put like a special emphasis on Fatu, and I really liked how it was kind of unconventional how they presented him tonight for sure.
Yeah, check out when you get a chance the beginning of the show, Ryan. You were driving home from the show, but Rich had a really good take on Jacob, and he's followed his career, and we commented on that quite a bit. What you just said, yeah, that's interesting. Rich, jump in with a question or follow up for Ryan.
Yeah, I just saw on Twitter they put up some of the video. I don't know, Ryan, if you had left already, but did you get to see any of the post beatdown with Cody escorting Randy and kind of like crawling? Because it looks, again, maximum Dusty Rhodes. Cody looks like he is about to die, but he's like, I gotta get Randy. I gotta pick him up, and they're like shoving him away. He's like, Cody, you're gonna die. He's like, I don't care if I die. Randy's gotta be okay.
Oh yeah, it was very, very good. They played it all the way to the back, and yeah, it was over for sure.
Yeah, it looks like, I'm looking at this video now. It looks like it took like poor Jamie Noble. Like he's trying to like, Randy Orton is already a huge man, and you have Jamie Noble trying to like roll him onto his back, roll him up, help stand him up. Like so much work to get into this huge human being with this small human being that's also muscular, trying to work him up. And yes, so noble. Well, Brock, well done, Brock. Jamie, by God, Noble. What were your thoughts on, as you're walking in, as you're walking out, the energy of the crowd? Like I always note, when I'm here in Pittsburgh, we are a particularly maligned fan base when it comes to going to WWE events, wrestling in general. When I went to AEW shows the first few times they came through, it was an energy where it was like people were super excited coming in, people were super excited coming out. How was it coming out and coming into to SmackDown tonight?
So the last time SmackDown or WWE in general was in Worcester was October 2022. So about 20 months ago, but they were just in Boston, which is about 45 minutes away, July 1st, or the Monday before Money in the Bank. Yeah. So they were pretty, you know, they were in the region, but they weren't in this specific city. So overall, like I said, it was probably 95% capacity at least. I would say very energetic, very frantic at the merchandise table. The concession stands were packed, and so were like the fans. If there was any fans, people were hovering around them. Water fountains were full as always. And yeah, they were very energetic, but like, I don't want to say annoyed, but very uncomfortable in a way too. So, but they brought it for sure.
Ryan, if you don't mind my asking, sorry, Wade, I just wanted to ask real quick about the merchandise. Typically, when I look at the shows, they seem to be really well stocked. I've noticed in the last few months, both from going with my son to SmackDown here in Pittsburgh and then seeing pictures online through WrestleTix, things like that. Have you seen a lot? Did you see when you were looking at the merchandise, if you even noticed, Hulk Hogan apparel? I saw a lot of Hulk Hogan stuff when I was here in Pittsburgh. See,
that caught my eye too, but when I got closer, it was an LA Knight foam figure in Hulk Hogan pose.
Slick.
Not that they didn't have Hulk Hogan merchandise, but you know, the yellow with the red foam figure was an LA Knight foam figure, actually. So it did catch my eye. I was like, oh, Hogan's over.
So no Hogan. No Hogan merch then. So no Hogan merch, right?
I didn't walk up to the table, but yeah. Are you talking about the foam finger or
no? I was talking about, like, I saw when I was in Pittsburgh and I saw some pictures online. They were selling Hulk Hogan replica belts, like Hulkamania on like a WWE title, or Hulk Still Rules type shirts. The foam fingers. Now that you mentioned it, I did think it was Hogan, but it was the little Knight logo inside, which was very, very slick on their part. And of course, the eternal bank crusher that is the Rey Mysterio masks that look authentic, but are also for the low price of like $100.
Yeah, the only custom belt that I saw from a distance, I didn't walk up to the table, it was way too busy, was the custom Boston Red Sox $700 belt.
Wow.
Now, do you spell it BO $? TON, or is that just like, was that a once in a lifetime opportunity like Rock versus Cena?
Yeah, once in a lifetime.
How did the crowd react to the main event? What, I assume, was there a dark match after SmackDown or anything?
It was actually two.
Oh,
It was
okay, we'll
actually
get to that
two.
then. So say that for a minute. How did the crowd react to DIY as a team? Did they seem into them and into that match as a TV main event, or not?
Yeah, I felt that WWE presented them in a way that the crowd would accept them. Like they had the Austin Theory and Grayson Waller entrance, and then they had the long commercial break, right? And then, of course, those guys are going to go jaw jack around to the fans and make sure they get them riled up. But then the DIY, just like the music actually kind of fits now. It like brings you in, and then as the music crescendos, they walk out. You know what I mean? So the music sucks you in, and as they walk out, the pop organically comes out. Or DIY, they're organically getting there, would be my assessment. And the crowd was there with them organically through it all too. So I would say out of 10, they were probably at like a 6.5, 7 for DIY, where they were at much higher for the bigger stars. But yeah.
Where was the crowd for Baron Corbin during his ring entrance? And then about, was it 20 minutes later, Apollo Crews came out and talk about the crowd reaction or investment in that tag match with Angel and Alberto?
Well, I personally, like, I wasn't sure who it was at first. Like, it had the big fire and the red and everything. I'm like, who's this? And then Corbin appears, and it's like kind of the same like presentation where it's a long drawn out song, and then he walks out, and it's like, oh, like they have your attention, and then Baron Corbin appears, and then the attention slowly kind of dissipates as he walks to the ring. But he's trying. He's shaking hands, kissing babies on his way to the ring, and he did have a very long break before Apollo Crews. But the crowd did pop for when they kind of did the over-the-top move. It was kind of unexpected from them in a way. It was also a cool introduction to them as a tag team as a way, too.
Did they burn the boats while they waited in between? Because they kept mentioning that on commentary. It's like, Baron Corbin's burned the boats. He's risking it all. It's like, well, it's not really a...
Oh, actually, that's what... So that, okay, but that's what now I'm putting together. That what his Tron was, the red fire on the boat. Now, okay, now you're making it make sense to me now.
Yeah.
But anyway,
because his new character... Yeah, his new character, they got rid of the unlucky stuff, and now they're saying he's risking everything, and he's like, you know, like the Vikings used to do. You'd land, burn the boats, and then now the only way you're going through is conquering wherever you're at and building new boats to come home.
All right, if we're going to use the 10-point scale, we'll go 3.54 for those two, but they kind of did they did a decent job. I like the presentation of them taking the risks, working together. And I don't know, like it's kind of very like 80s-ish, right? Like let's throw two baby faces together and see if it works. We get nothing for them, type of thing. We'll see.
Now, what about
how over was
Bailey
Tiffany as an act? Oh, sorry, Rich.
I was gonna go for it, Wade.
We're kind of leading the same place. Yeah, talk about how over Tiffany was, and then Rich, as he brought up, I was going to follow up with how did the crowd react to Bailey? So. Good team effort. Yeah,
Tiffany was actually probably the most over woman of the night, the most accepted woman of the night, and definitely garnered the most energy from the crowd for sure. Bailey got the legacy champion respect, of course, and actually Nia got decent heat, and that match between them kind of settled in and built well towards the end. I don't know if you guys over it as well, but yeah, I would say for sure Tiffany was probably the biggest future star out of the women, and probably the biggest future star perhaps out of the whole roster on that show for a future like presentation, so to speak. But I was a little disappointed we didn't get the bedazzled briefcase yet and whatnot. And the crowd was there when she went for the fake cash in or whatever. The crowd was there. We had everyone yelling around me, cash it in, you know, and they were with it. So it would have worked if they went for it tonight.
It'll work whenever they do it. Crowds love that. They want to be witnessed and say they were there for it. Talk about what happened before SmackDown, if anything, and then also the two main event matches that didn't air.
So when I got in, it was the OC versus the Street Profits. I didn't catch their entrances, but first match of the night. It felt like the crowd was settling in as they were settling into their matches. And, it was fine. I believe the Street Profits won. And they actually had a pretty cool speed match when it was Carmelo versus Ilya. So I don't know if I want to spoil the result, but that's a pretty big speed match.
Well, we've given people warning. So hit mute or fast forward if you don't want to know. But go ahead. It happened in front of a crowd. It's fair game.
All right. It was a draw.
All right. Cool.
Big presentation for a draw. I'm glad it worked out in that favor. But it was a draw.
You got to sell the sense of urgency by having a draw every once in a while. You got to take chances or else you both are out. Yeah. Cool.
Hey,
so then
1.5 million people watching on average, right? That's what they say.
Yep. So then after SmackDown?
So after SmackDown, we got Carlito versus Braun Strowman. And that was a match, but typical cat mouse, and it was fine. It felt like the crowd was annoyed because the match after that was Damian Priest versus Jey Uso. So a lot of urgency to get through that match. A little unfair for Braun, but decent pop for Braun and Carlito. Nice legacy pop, but they probably overstayed their welcome a little bit there. But Jey Uso and when Jey Uso's entrance hit, we stayed for the entrance, and then we did the smart thing and hit the road before the crowd kind of gathered up. And I wanted to get home for this, so we saw the entrances, and Jey Uso for sure. We'll put them on the A and B tier with LA Knight and Cody Rhodes for pop of the night.
I was gonna say, Jay's getting good pops. Crowds like doing the arm thing and all that. Rich, anything else you want to ask Ryan?
Yeah, how did folks in the crowd react to the Bailey BBL comment? That's what's been burning
it's trending on Twitter.
The torch nature. And Bailey actually responded. I can't put links in the comments, but she said, "I was born that way," with a little middle finger emoji.
I think that maybe the few fans that might have understood it snarked a little bit, but it did really kind of. You did get a little bit of more of a like haha than a big round of applause.
Okay.
I think it hit for who it was supposed to hit with.
Yeah, that sometimes if you know, and if you don't know, someone can tell you on the way out with the benefit of whispering and a Google.
Yeah, I'm not sure my youngest got it, but yeah, I got it.
Ryan, anything else you want to add?
I think like the guys that I went with back into wrestling in the last few years, first show for a few other guys, and those guys kind of felt like it was that was the show in a way. Advertising wasn't like spectacular, but overall, I thought it was a pretty decent episode of SmackDown. Nothing I'm going to tell my grandchildren about, but it did its job.
If trying to think if LA Knight like becomes governor of your state or something, you'll tell him about the show. Something could happen.
He's at the governor's response tonight, so if he wants to put his name on a ballot, perhaps he might get it.
Yeah, or maybe
let
Blair
me talk to you, Worcester.
Maybe Blair Davenport. Yeah. I don't know. Never mind. I'm trying to think of reasons you would tell
quite a few
about the show. It's a stretch.
Yeah, quite a few who's, and the concession stands did get a little hefty around that match, unfortunately for them.
Cool. Ryan, thank you. Appreciate you taking time to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you, Wade.
Absolutely.
Nice meeting you guys.
Yep, good having you on. If you would like to be an on-site correspondent like Ryan just was, all you have to do is email us, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com, wadekellerpodcast@gmail.com. Just name the date and the city in the subject line. It helps me stay a little organized, and we'll be in touch and arrange for you to be on. All right. We had Jeff was on hold as a caller. He has dropped off. So next in line is Jason from Australia. Jason, welcome. Good to hear from you. What's on your mind about SmackDown? Rich is excited.
I am.
Thanks, Wade. Nice to speak to you, Rich. How you doing?
It's been a minute. Listen, Jason, I've met so many people. I met a couple of guys from Adelaide. Buddy of mine, Richard Avian, who does our shirts over at Post Wrestling, and no one is the OG like you are. Like you are to me, I know it's an entire continent, the mayor of Australia. So forget about Hugh Jackman. Forget about anything. Kylie Minogue, get out of here. It is you. So welcome back, sir. I am happy to be with you. This is like, this is joyful.
Rich, mate, you're too kind. And if I was the mayor of Australia then, or the prime minister, I think you'd like my policies. So we'll put it that way. But man, you're too kind, man. There's no way I can measure up to Hugh Jackman. Mate, you mentioned Kylie Minogue. I mean, she's still going strong. But in any event, what I wanted to talk about in relation to the SummerSlam card, I've got to say I agree with Sean. I'm really looking forward to this card. I mean, I guess the match that I'm looking forward to the most is Gunther and Damian Priest. One, what ending are they going to book? And how does Damian Priest, I know this is a SmackDown show, but how does Damian Priest get over in this match? Because I feel like the crowd's going to be solidly behind Gunther, even though they're doing a slow transition for a Damian Priest babyface turn. So I'm intrigued in that match. But in relation to SmackDown, I think this is an opportunity for Austin Theory to step up here, because obviously Jacob Fatu took out DIY, but he also took out Theory as well, and Waller once again sort of backed away. So I think what we might see is a six-man tag with DIY and Austin Theory choosing to step up and his character wanting to stand for something, to give him something to stand for, to say, this is not right. I've got to do something here. And, he joins DIY for a six-man tag, and you got Waller in the background trying to say to him, you don't have to get involved. Why are you doing this? And this leads to Waller officially turning on Theory. So Theory shows a backbone with DIY against the bloodline. He's standing for something, and then we can go forward with his babyface turn, because he needs to show something. And the fact that Jacob Fatu took him out as well, I think this could be a turning point for his character.
Jason is bringing it. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when I look at what's going to go down with the coronation of Gunther, as Jason talks about, first of all, what's going to to me makes the most sense, regardless of what happens, it's going to be the appreciative, especially with the SummerSlam event like that. You see a coronation of a champion, Gunther wins, he leaves. You're probably going to have the agony of defeat and have that opportunity for the respectful clap for Priest as he gets up, recovers, leaves the area. And I think that'll start that transition in full. To your point, again, continuing that mindset with Waller and Austin Theory, him trying to be the honorable idiot is something I think I could see Waller just being disgusted by that. Like, how dare you care about people, and pushing them. And I think this has done a better job for rehabbing Austin Theory and what he has in terms of potential than any of that you were the chosen one of Vince McMahon, even before the lawsuit and the general Vince McMahon disgustingness came back to light. I look forward to seeing how they can portray Austin Theory as maybe not an everyman babyface, but as someone who's just trying to do the right thing and figure things out as he does it. And I think that's a good place for him.
What do you think, Jason?
Definitely. I mean, Austin Theory, he's young, he's got a great look. He obviously can go in the ring. We need to see something about his character, because he's just been about arrogant and I'm great and all the rest of it. But we need to see, there has to be some oomph to him. Like, there has to be something to drive him to turn into this better person so the crowd can get behind him. And what better way to stand up against these monsters, especially a Jacob Fatu? He will earn the respect of the crowd and earn the respect of fellow baby faces, which will help his transition. So they've got something there. I know people are talking about John Cena and facing Randy Orton and whatnot. For me, with the final year with Cena, I don't really care about his matches, because I know what I'm going to get. He's going to start off strong. He's going to do extended selling. Then they're going to go to the finish where he does his comeback. We know that's the John Cena formula. What I'm interested in is the stories that they're going to tell. So is this going to be a greatest hit tour type of thing where he faces an Orton for one last time, CM Punk? I don't particularly mind seeing that. I know people talk about Cena and Orton. If we've got to see it one more time, we'll see it one more time just to wrap things up and for nostalgia's sakes. But what story are they going to tell with him with other people? And who's he going to go over and who's he going to defeat? So this is what I'm really intrigued about. And I want people to come away in a better position having faced Cena than what they did going in. A lot of the criticism is that when he put Solo over very strong in Saudi Arabia, well, Solo didn't really do much with that for the ensuing months. I mean, he lost a lot of matches and whatnot. Now we're seeing him being strong. That's the intriguing part for me with Cena. So for me, it's about the stories that they're going to tell with him. And to be honest, as much as I respect Cena and everything he's done and how he was, he's got to lift his game too, because I feel like just with the overall acting and the way the writing has been, Cena's got to bring it now. He's got to have a little bit more to him, because even when he was talking, he can come across a little bit insincere to me, or a little bit phony. Even in the press conference, it's like he's on his best behavior. I don't want John Cena to be on his best behavior. They're moving to Netflix now. I want to see more from him. I want to see more nuance. I want to see a little bit more from him. To me, I feel like he has to bring it, because I feel like the acting in WWE, especially under this Levesque regime, has definitely improved. And there's more nuance and there's more storytelling. And if he's going to interact with Punk and Drew McIntyre and even Seth Rollins now, he's going to have to bring it a little bit more.
Yeah, it was a question in the fixed mailbag about Cena and phoniness and all that, and I don't know if phony. I mean, I've used the word phony, but I think he just feels like a walking press release. Like,
yes, that's the word.
He just
Correct.
says the right words in the right way, and sort of a kind of dry press release way. And is that phony and insincere, or is he just sort of kind of cardboard shallow company guy in that context? But there is an edge to him. We saw it early in his career. We saw it when he brought it for The Rock. And there's more there. And I don't like going through the motions, John Cena. The Cena who's like, I'm over it. I've moved on. You know, I'm going to kind of go through the motions and you guys will react to me as a nostalgia actor. I want to see him engaged in what's happening and rise to the occasion, because it's in him. And if it's his last year, Rich, I want to see Cena upset. I want to see him with a chip on his shoulder. I want to see him I don't want to see him use his skills to bury somebody who isn't prepared to fire back. That's not what I'm asking for. And he needs to be smart and kept, because he is capable of that. But I want to see him on task, but against the right opponent. I think it can work. And, you know, maybe Gunther is on the agenda for Cena to lose to help elevate Gunther. And I'd be curious. Gunther seems unshakable to me as a person, as a character, and Cena going at him, and then and Gunther not blinking and not seeming intimidated could actually help his character. Rich, what do you think?
I think Cena, especially as Jason mentioned, going to Netflix, that's going to be where they spend that money, where they need to bring in characters. Like, you know, I challenged the idea of, instead of the U.S. Open challenge, you give Cena the opportunity. It's almost like a mixture over the next 17 months of This Is Your Life and a proving ground to see how much edge he can bring. Because when I watch shows like Peacemaker, he is an edgy guy. Like, some of the stuff he does in Peacemaker, says in Peacemaker, is so absurd, so over the top, so vile, and not vile, I'm sorry, so vulgar. It's wild. And then, yeah, Ken's point about emasculating Austin Theory, same thing. You beat me. What's going to happen after I leave? That was a fair question, but it was too close to the bone. And I think with Netflix, you need to get folks. One person I brought up when we talked on everything was bringing in someone like a Matt Cardona if he was healthy, just to let him show, okay, this guy, we're bringing him. Anybody will show up on Raw on Netflix. But to Jason's point, if he's going to try to get someone over, I want to see Cena get pushed to his edge by an Ilya Dragunov, because Ilya is not a character you can joke with. Yeah. He'll get in your face and he will say, I'm going to hit you with Torpedo Moscow, and I'm just going to keep beating you until you do not get up. The Red Dragon will not stop. I look at some of the other young guys. Mello is another person where that could be a good one for rub purposes in terms of having him talk about, but that's too close. Just like with Austin Theory, I think the characters that are too close to the Cena character at its heart are the ones he can play with, and it starts getting a little dangerous because he gets too serious for someone who isn't mature enough to match him. If it's someone like a returning Rock as the final boss, if it's someone like unfortunately, I know for some of the folks in the chat, a Randy Orton, you can plumb and ply, and they can kind of find things that they enjoy in the feud. And then with the new folks, or some of the folks that they want to bring on and have them have that edge, I think Punk can get it out of them. I think if they had a chat about it, it's like, hey, here's what's on limits, here's what's off limits, let's dig and let's kind of pull some stuff out of each other. There's a trust there. I think with some of the young guys he's tried to put over, he put them over You guys mentioned a press release. He put them over as dutifully as a top guy should have, without any of the care that you need to put into making sure that person grows a little bit. And some of it, Cena's admitted after the fact, I wanted to make Austin better, but he wasn't ready for what I was giving him. And sometimes as a coach, you have to change what you're given in order to get the results you want.
Jason, back to you for any response to any of that.
Yeah, see, I don't understand what Austin Theory is meant to do in that situation. If Cena's coming at him, is he just meant to fly off the cuff? Because he's got to have the respect for Cena too. So he might feel like in himself, I can't really go here or say something that's quote unquote off script because maybe that's not my role or whatever. So I think he was put in a very awkward situation. In fairness to Cena, though, I thought the person that he did put over really good without facing him in the ring, but actually being his tag partner and sharing segments with LA Knight.
Yep.
I thought late last year, just having Cena in the ring with LA Knight and sort of Cena moving to the side and giving Knight the spotlight, I thought he did that was really well for LA Knight, and you could see that Cena respected LA Knight because I think in Cena's mind, Knight is someone who's a bit older, who's embraced the grind, who has had to work hard to get where he was, took that model gimmick or whatever he had, and turned himself to getting really over. I think Cena really respected him, and LA Knight benefited from being on the screen with Cena. So that is definitely someone who I think Cena put over. And like we said, he couldn't have done more for Solo in Saudi Arabia. I mean, Solo decimated him. It's just in the ensuing months, we didn't really see much of Solo, but we're seeing a lot now. But Wade and Rich, to me, this is intriguing for me. Like this with Cena next year, who do you decide he goes against? Who do you decide to give him victories against? Because you just don't want him losing and putting everyone over because then he will lose his appeal. Like he has to defeat some people and he has to lose to others. So this, just from a behind the scenes booking point of view, this to me is very, very intriguing and where they go with that. Do you agree with me, Wade and Rich, that the way they book this out next year and who he puts over and who he doesn't, it's very fascinating to me.
Very, very much so. I mean, Rich, you don't want Cena to just come in and look like he's over the hill and loses to everybody, but you also don't want him beating people he shouldn't be beating. And so the variety of opponents they choose, how much build those matches get, and how he wins and how he loses and how everybody reacts to it is going to be real interesting. I think there's going to be a stretch of house show matches. He'll be in tag matches, maybe. He will be in. He'll be on a row. Maybe he'll do 8 matches in a row at house shows for a couple of weeks for a few weeks against Dominic and just beat him, and the crowd will eat it up. That kind of thing. But there's going to be marquee matches: Randy Orton, Gunther, maybe somebody from the Bloodline, maybe Cody, maybe Punk, as Punk brought up. Jason's right, Rich. Those are big, big moments.
Yeah, I'm looking here on Cage Match just to kind of confirm it. I know we talked about this a while ago. His last victory was Triple H in the Greatest Royal Rumble in 2018 in a one-on-one match.
Yeah.
And so on television, if you've seen him at a house show, of course, wins left, right, and center. Solo Sikoa, Jason's absolutely right. I think post the failure was on WWE, not on Cena. I think with Austin Theory, you're also dealing with the return of Vince McMahon and politically, which master am I serving in terms of what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Roman at SummerSlam 21 made sense because Roman needed to make sure he packed another legend. He's like he said, he's going to flap them and stack them. The Fiend and the Firefly Funhouse, he wanted to put over that. And then, you go to him beating Triple H at the Greatest Royal Rumble. And then, prior to that, having lost the same month to The Undertaker in that quick match in Louisiana, I suffered through.
Let me bring up, because Sean did a super chat here and has a question for Jason. What do you think about Cena and Cody as opponents? Sean adds, I don't think they should do it. Cody needs no rub. But it's, 2 big stars from 2 different eras who are overlapping. It's the last chance to do it. Cody beating Cena could be a big moment for Cena. So, Sean, thank you sincerely for the super chat and super chats. And he wants Jason to answer this.
I don't know if I want to see those 2 face each other, but I have no issue with them as a tag team. I don't think Cody needs a victory against Cena because I think that's too obvious. I'd rather see Cena in matches where, to be honest, I want to be kept guessing. So I don't think Cody can get the rub from Cena in a big tag match I don't think he has to beat him, though. I don't think Cody needs that on his resume. I mean, you would think he does, I guess, but I don't think he does. I think this tagging would be enough for Cody and sharing the screen with him. What do you think, guys?
Sadler in the chat room says only if Cody goes heel. What do you think of that, Rich? And then Jason, you too.
Sure. I think Cody doesn't have to be heel. I think they can do babyface, because one of the aspects for me of Cena coming back over the next 17 months, is he wants title win number 17. And he wants to do it with, again, just like Cody said, the title that he's won the most between the non-existent one that wasn't there when he was there and the one that's absorbed every other title that he's won in the past. And I think that opens a door where Cody's like, I'm the champion and I'm not going to lay down for you. Not literally saying that, but Cody's not going to sit there and let someone else try to win on his time. And so I think that's where you could have a respectful, I'll see you at insert show here, and deal with it. And then, Ken, I saw your message. The only issue I had at WrestleMania with The Undertaker and Cena was that the lights from The Undertaker's entrance with all the graves of the guys he had beaten at WrestleMania before, people were running back to see him because it was supposed to be that surprise match. It hit. There was a couple of people next to me in the media area that were like veterans, and so it hit them right in the eye, so they couldn't see. So that's been burned in my brain since that event happened, of those folks who were like complaining, like, I can't see anything, and they even started chanting, we can't see. So that's where my feeling came. The match was the match. It was fine.
For our podcast listeners, audio only, Ken wrote, I was there at WrestleMania 34 in New Orleans, Rich. That Undertaker squash of John Cena was fine for what it was, but they should never do a build to a big dream match like that ever again.
I will say that was funny, though, that build, Wade, because I remember calling as a live correspondent to you. There were folks sprinting, and I'm sure Ken can agree, sprinting from the concession stand when they realized this is when the match was happening, because they thought it was going to be bathroom break time. And then it was like, oh, no. They're trying to get back to what I was like, oh, okay, well done, Cena, but also never do this again.
So Ken said Cody isn't turning heel until late 2024, early 2025. I will add 2 to 3 years onto that. I don't think Cody's turning heel until late 2027, early 2028. I mean, like, Cody's not going heel anytime soon. I mean, maybe I'm overstating it by a year, but it may never happen either. It could be a Cena type thing. No way is Cody a heel against Cena. I think they add a little, edge to things. Shauna's with me, says 2026 or 2027. Maybe there's a little bit of an edge to Cena's comments, and people are like, ooh, Cena, you shouldn't be saying that about Cody, or vice versa. But no, there's not going to be, there's way too much to do with Cody, and he's way too popular. It's working until it isn't working. I don't think they're going to consider turning him. Again, at least not for 2 to 3 years. Jason, back to you.
Well, of course, if you turn Cody heel, then who replaces him?
Yeah. I don't think you count on CM Punk. I mean, Drew McIntyre could again, but he's too freshly turned. I think Gunther has babyface potential, because he's just so good and matter of fact, and deadpan's not the word, but just unshakable. But I don't know. I mean, we're just starting his journey. Let's not jump to thinking about turning him. So yeah, I think we're years away from Cody turning heel if it happens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only argument you could make, and it's not going to happen, if Roman Reigns comes back full time, then you can slot him in. No, that's not happening. Yeah. So, no. But look, it's intriguing to think, a heel Cody against John Cena. I mean, that is intriguing to think, but it's probably the wrong time. If we're 3 years into Cody's run as a top babyface champion, by all means, but it's probably not the right time, because you've got to have someone in order to replace Cody. Right. But yeah, overall, just getting back to SmackDown, I think for me, we also have to factor in, come SummerSlam, do we all feel like this is going to be the event where Roman makes his comeback towards the end of the match? Whatever happens between Solo and Cody, we're going to hear his music, and he's going to come out, and there's going to be a confrontation. Is that what we're thinking?
My over-under is later. I'm not ruling it out, and I do not have insider information on it. I wouldn't even want any insider information or tip on it, but I could see Roman being out till like WrestleMania season. I think there's pieces in place, and there's not really a big marquee event if he isn't on the SummerSlam lineup. I don't know if you bring him back for something other than WrestleMania. Not ruling it out, but I don't feel like there's this like, flashing light that says, Roman is imminent. What do you think, Rich?
No, I'm looking at the PLE schedule right now, and I would say the soonest I would see him coming back is
well, if we got it, sorry, Rich, to interrupt.
go for it.
But
go for it.
What about War Games? I mean, surely we're building towards Bloodline, the original versus 2.0 for War Games. I mean, surely they've got to. That's on the cards, right?
I don't think Roman has to be part of that. I don't think you bring Roman back
Really?
and put him in a. I don't. Yeah, I don't. I think there's enough. I mean, I haven't thought it through, but I don't know that you want Roman to come back and be in anything but a singles match against. I mean, I'm not like just firmly against it, but to me, Roman comes back. It's a one-on-one match, and it's massive. I don't think you throw him in a big group. I don't think that's ideal. Rich, what do you think?
I think if they're going to do that, that might not be until Survivor Series 2025.
Wow. Yeah.
Because Rock's filming the Smashing Machine till August. I don't think they're going to want to do anything with Roman until they figure out what they're going to do with The Rock. And that means Rock has to get himself back into, for better or worse, Rock shape, as opposed to Smashing Machine shape, where he looks like, an older man in phenomenal shape instead of an action figure that has now gained sentience. So if that's going to take a while for him, maybe probably 2 months, I wouldn't imagine. I think end of the year, New Year's Evil might be where you start seeing signs that The Rock and Roman are coming back. In the interim, we may see Paul Heyman. We may see, especially the style Lee Fitting's done, we might see Paul Heyman in the background. It's like, wait a minute, was that? And then you start building to like Paul's talking to Sammy, Paul's talking to Jimmy, Paul's talking to Jay. Wait, Jimmy's back. When did Jimmy come back? Like those sorts of things where he's doing machinations just outside of Solo's attention span, so there isn't anything that'll lead to him being smashed again. And I would love to see that, because then now you have the pieces for the Bloodline Avengers to get back together.
Yeah, my concern. Yeah, but my concern is you've got the crowd chanting, "We want Roman." I mean, if you string this out to WrestleMania, you don't want them to lose hope. Like he's hot right now. Like I don't understand how you could wait till next year. Like surely he's coming back soon, or else the crowd are going to be like, "Well, he's not coming back." Like you got to strike while the iron's hot here. I know what you're saying. You want to save him for certain big things, but I don't know, man. Is he ever going to come back as hot as what he is now?
I think right now, Jason, this is one of the best problems they could ever have, because the chant you're getting to counteract the top heel in the company is who you want to be one of your top baby faces, instead of a protest chant of a guy who also is now in your company again. Instead of saying CM Punk, instead of saying like Moxley or something like that, you're hearing, "We want Roman." I think, especially knowing how they present things, you're going to start seeing some of their presentations showing the videos of "We want Roman." And start to build to that crescendo. Until that point, I think they're going to just lean into it and just let it sit and let that be the thing that, as you've seen with Solo doing the "acknowledge me," that's the natural reaction now, especially because you don't have Paul there to disavow him being the tribal chief, either by action or by word.
But from a character point of view too, I mean, from his pure character, why would he let this go on for so long and not do anything about it? I mean, surely there has to be something about his character to come back and say, "I can't let this go on anymore." I mean, he's already been away since WrestleMania. So we're talking 3 to 4 months now. How long is it going to take for him to say, like, "Damn it, I've got to do something about this"?
I think some of it's going to be... Oh, go ahead.
From a storyline standpoint, I'm just going to throw to you, Rich. From a storyline standpoint, that is a challenge, right? How do you explain Roman being gone that long, even if you want him gone that long? And that's just us, proposing that might be possible.
I look at what happened the night after WrestleMania with the hug and the tears with Paul. I look at the tweet he put out the next day where he's broken and I got to rebuild. And I look at what Paul has been saying throughout this. Roman, to what you have said for years, Wade, I think the thing that's going to make this work is he's going to come out and say, "The reason it took me this long is because I didn't think I could do it. And it took this guy pointing to Heyman to remind me why I did everything to become the tribal chief. And I had another mountain to climb. And now I'm here. I'm sorry it took me so long, but I am here to get the family right." And I think that would be the vulnerability he's never shown. Like, instead of it being a thing where I was on vacation, I was doing, drinking Mai Tais with my wife and my kids, it was, I really had to get over the psychological effect of losing to Cody, and then the psychological effect of losing my family, and thinking that maybe this was because I did fail everyone and I was never worthy of the lay, being the tribal chief, and then kind of push that story. Very much a Cody-esque story for a guy who now would have to look to Cody to be an ally.
Jason, anything you want to add?
Well, just to that, Rich, see, I still think they have. See, I've speculated. I've thought that when Heyman got attacked and they showed the lay, right? Heyman's like, "Where did you get that from?"
Mm-hmm.
I thought a storyline reason why Roman's being away is that Solo put Jacob Uso Jacob Fatu up to beating the crap out of Roman and stealing the lay. So to give it to give it to him. That's what I thought a storyline reason would be. To show that he's got a vicious side to him, because Solo was so confident saying Roman ain't coming back. Why is he so confident that Roman ain't coming back? And why is Heyman saying, where did you get that from? So I'm just trying to put two and two together. That's the reason why Roman, and we get that explained, that this happened in the background. So I'm just trying to piece together the things that they've said on TV.
Yeah, and it's also similar to what happened with Rhea Ripley and Dom, where Dom kept telling Damien that he had been talking to Rhea, and then he's like, well, I just talked to her a minute ago and she's pissed. And he's like, oh, whoa, what do you mean? So that kind of invalidated all the thing. I think a lot of it is, some of it is Solo's full of it, and some of it may be, like you said, he's enlisted the Samoan that no one ever wanted on the list to take Roman out. And, you don't want to go full NXT where, every other week they're throwing someone in the back of a car and then throwing them into the Everglades. But I think there is a way you can meet in the middle to allow you to have that story and give it the realm of possibility, or at least the realm of it's so cool, we'll let it go.
And I could believe Roman it's a little tongue in cheek, but he just disconnected from the world. He just went on an island of relevancy, perhaps, with no internet or Wi-Fi, and just survived and relaxed. And there were no phone calls to him, and Solo was lying, and Heyman didn't know. And Roman just tells a story that he disconnected. He took his family and just wasn't in touch with anybody after the loss. I don't know. We can spitball ideas, but I'm sure they have something in mind. Jason, Australia, what else?
Well, that's about it for me. In relation to LA Knight and Logan Paul, surely LA Knight has to win this match, because I think he's done a tremendous job staying as over as he has with the crowd. But we've seen him fail a couple of times in big matches, and he's still maintained his momentum. I think they have to pull the trigger on him and have him defeat Logan Paul at SummerSlam so he can get his crowning moment, which validates all the cheers the crowd have been giving him, in my opinion, just from his character point of view. And I guess in relation to Tiffany Stratton, it's interesting that she is getting the pops from the crowd and whatnot, but I don't need to hear too much from her as far as being an in-depth character, because she's full of herself. She loves herself. So her promos don't have to be that much to me, because that's keeping with her character. She just feels like she has to say the bare minimum. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm the best. And that's it. And they're in an intriguing spot with her, because I like that Bayley showed a bit of fire, because I feel like Bayley's been lacking the past couple of months. And for her to fight back and say that I'm not the person I was before and all the rest of it, as you touched on, Rich, earlier in the show, I think that's good from her point of view. It's just navigating the waters with Tiffany as a babyface, because they've always got that they can go full babyface with her if she turns on Nia Jax. You know what I mean? So they've got some intriguing elements there. But overall, once again, Wade and Rich, I'm thoroughly enjoying WWE TV. Look, I always look at it as a glass half full anyway, so I'm more inclined to be positive about things. But I think they're giving me more than enough reasons to be positive about the direction that they're taking.
Jason, always great hearing from you. I'm glad that you're calling regularly. Thanks for your input.
Wade, good speaking to you again. And Rich, you're too kind, mate, but it's always good listening to you. Like one of the nicest people that I've ever heard and listened to you. And I think your views are very spot on. And mate, I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Likewise, always a pleasure, man. I hope you enjoy your afternoon. Man,
that's it. It's 12:03 over here. I'm just ready to launch into the day. Beautiful.
Is it winter there?
Yes. But hey, Wade, we don't listen. we we complain over here when it gets cold, right? But we got nothing on Minnesota. I mean, if I was in Minnesota, I wouldn't be able to survive. So I can't complain about it being cold over here.
You'd be fine. We humans adjust. So what's the temperature?
Right now, I see. And here's the other thing: you guys don't use Celsius, so
It's probably what, 28 Celsius.
We have internet.
It's 18.
18.
18.
Okay.
Yeah, but look, I live on the west
Celsius
coast.
or Fahrenheit?
No,
Celsius.
So what's that, about 54 or something? Is
Yeah,
it like 3 times?
65. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like 3 times plus about half. I think it's like 3.5 is the conversion. So I mean that's not cold. I mean, it hardly. Look, I live in Perth, right, which is on the west coast. Over in Melbourne and Sydney, it gets a lot colder, and in Tasmania, it gets really cold over here. We don't see snow over here. We have a good, compared to like Canada and Minnesota, Pittsburgh or whatever, where I know it gets cold. We're fine. We're fine. We can't complain at all.
Excellent. Thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
We'll wrap up with a couple email calls, but Rich, I want to show what my dog is doing after I woke him up.
Uh-oh.
And somebody asked in the chat room earlier, and we'll get to it. Here, let's pull it up here. So Rude Dog asked, is Emo named after cult comedian Emo Phillips? And so the answer to that is yes. He is named after him, and he is named after him because he looks like him. And I have evidence here, and here it is.
Oh my!
Emo Phillips next to Emo Jefferson. My dog's has a last name, Emo Jefferson. That's him as a puppy. I don't look at puppy pictures much, and he's so freaking adorable. I don't know what to do. But yeah, Emo Phillips knows I named my dog after him because they look alike. I sent Emo this photo, and he endorsed me naming him after him. So there you have it. There they are. And then this is what Emo is up to now. After I woke him up, he is just passed out on his favorite chair that he fits in perfectly. So there is the update on him. All right. Hopefully people are dying from how cute he is because he's so cute. All right. Jason from Connecticut says, man, the Samoan werewolf is far above everybody else. He's money and believable. People really should give Jim Cornette props. He's been praising Fatu for some time. He told WWE to sign him a long time before the bandwagon. Anyway, thanks for all the great content you guys share. Jason from Connecticut. Rich, you are the leader on that too. You are among the people saying sign him.
Well, I gotta be fair. At the time, Jim Cornette was actually working at MLW and doing commentary for them, so he had a lot more say than I did. So I'll give him his props, shakiness and all.
Yes. So speaking of Bloodline, Janaid emailed and said, does Solo directly acknowledging Roman give away the finish to his match against Cody at SummerSlam? So this fits into our discussion about when Roman returns. Speaking of 50-50 booking, I think it's very unlikely Solo pins Cody twice in a row at SummerSlam. But directly acknowledging Roman gives a strong hint that Roman's return will be at SummerSlam. The question is whether it's during the match or after the match. If Solo loses to Cody, why would Roman want to confront this loser? If Solo wins, I feel like the championship would feel secondary to Solo's disrespect in his attack on Paul Heyman and his claims of being the tribal chief. So, unfortunately, I think the best case scenario is this match will end with Roman physically costing Solo the match and Cody will hit Crossroads. Also, if the Bloodline are uncontrollable, remorseless savages, why are they removing the monitors on the announce table before putting Orton onto it? I shouldn't be too nitpicky. So, but the question is, the Solo directly acknowledging Roman give away the finish against Cody? I don't think WWE can afford to do more interference in title matches after what CM Punk has been up to. Rich, what do you think?
I think they can lean in and do even more. Go full Cartoon Network, Comedy Central, and just stack it onto hats on hats on hats on hats. I think to also answer the other question, if Roman were to show up, that would make sense. But I feel like looking at this story, the bigger issue isn't necessarily the acknowledgement. It's more the words they've said. And it's funny that it's now become the thread in 3 of the major feuds. Wins and losses, actions have consequences. It was said the night after WrestleMania. We have that with the feud between Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and McIntyre. We already had it with the Bloodline, and that's the reason Solo's claiming he can usurp Roman during his absence and take over as the tribal chief. I think if he does lose, if Solo does lose, that does open the door for Roman to show up. But maybe Solo leaves through the crowd because he doesn't want to acknowledge the fact that now, because of this defeat, he has to, like, it's in the Vince McMahon where it's in abeyance, and now they have to fight each other for the right to be the tribal chief. I think, for me, and one of the reasons I thought waiting for, HasLab Galactus, it's in the basement. There was a comment from Acme Tunes. Shout out to me for the hazmat. I also have my little MCU Later shirt from what I do at Post, and almost every movie collectible popcorn tin, because that's my son's collection. And so here in the office, I leave them because he refuses to put them in his room like I ask him repeatedly, because that's what tweens do. But back to Roman. I think it makes more sense, especially with the death of his dad, for the elders, the remaining living elders, to be the people that show up first. Kind of like, think about the Wyatt Six and how they appear and they give the stuff out, but in the sense of the elders are watching on during the match in the Cleveland Browns Stadium, and they're kind of turning their back and they're saying, other way around, Mike, Roman isn't running away from Solo. Solo is running away from Roman. And to be frank, you've been a little aggressive in the comments, so you might want to tune that down like 8 notches. So I think ultimately Roman needs to be in a position where the elders have already supported him. They gave him the lay. Like after that tribal combat match several years ago. Looking at Solo, he's really just declared himself. It's like, I think about Michael Scott when he screamed, "I declare bankruptcy" in The Office. That's basically what Solo's done with the tribal chief. There needs to be some way to push back and make this something that's going to be a little bit more substantive. So either if he's going to lose to Cody, there has to be someone that pushes back. And in the case of Jacob Fatu, I think that is a nuclear weapon you can use if Roman does come back. Jason just mentioned it a few minutes ago. Let's say Roman does come back and now Jacob Fatu on camera hurts Roman or puts Roman in a position where he's out of action because of those. That then makes it seem like there's peril for Roman. We just were about to see him come back. Jacob is the guy that's gone too far, and off you pop. But again, mileage is going to vary.
All right, then next up from Junaid, it was a very good SmackDown overall, I thought, with mostly logical forwarding of storylines and good matches and promos. Is Tiffany being used appropriately, being subservient to Nia? I emailed recently saying I'm a big fan of Tiffany Stratton, and I think she's a once-in-a-generation performer, but is she being used effectively as essentially Nia's sidekick? I mean, she's very young, and they're not bearing her anything. Plus, she's a heel, and cashing in immediately would have been awkward given her association with Nia and Nia's upcoming title match. But I personally feel like she's maybe one of the few people on the roster as a babyface or a heel who you should establish as a legitimate competitor who has agency and a backbone. That may sound like I'm describing a babyface, but there have always been serious heels as much as cowardly or comedic heels. I just feel like if other women like Michin can stand up to Nia, then Tiffany, without necessarily turning on her, becoming a babyface, can call her shot to cash in. Tiffany is an incredibly talented and formidable woman, but she's so young, so I do buy her being a little hesitant to cross Nia. Obviously, she wasn't going to cash in, but I feel like it would have been better if she was thwarted another way rather than backing down to Nia. So is Tiffany being used appropriately, being subservient to Nia? I mean, Bayley established, like way back in 2019, you didn't even know what Money in the Bank was. And Tiffany was it was a breaking point. Rich, your thoughts on Janae's question there?
Yeah, sure. And I think there's another element too with this. The longer she is, quote unquote, subservient to Nia, the more time she gets on the main roster to find her sea legs and gain an ability to be the person that Janae mentioned that he wants her to be. I think this helps her. It gives her more time to get used to the system, up there in the main roster working with folks. It isn't just about the wrestling. I'm a big person on the idea of wrestling isn't just the wrestling moves. Kind of like Wade talked about earlier, it's the moves between the moves. And for me, it's also giving people characters that you can believe in and giving them opportunities that they can have success, like giving them as many wins as possible. Sometimes they might be more metaphorical than actual win-loss wins. In Tiffany's case, I would argue she should have the Money in the Bank as per the rule. You have one person that does the early cash in, one person that kind of lets you meander, and it builds in the back of your brain until they cash it in. We just saw that with Damian Priest. Have her hold it for at least another 2 to 3 months. She doesn't have to be subservient throughout that entire time, but I do think eventually she is going to have to bow up and shove, or in some way. And I'm assuming because of the way that she's a front runner, because that's really the character she's playing. Like, she's going to complain. She's going to see, like, almost like Chelsea. She's going to complain to the manager, but she's also going to be arrogant about the fact that she's earned the right to talk to the manager. I think when if Nia loses at SummerSlam, you'll see the dynamic change a little bit. It's like, well, you had your shot. Now it's my turn. And then she'll notice that Nia happens to be accidentally. Maybe it's not now her from an intimidation or a menacing standpoint. It's her just like, oh, I just happen to be out there. I didn't know you needed the briefcase right there. Or did you really want me to hand this to the ref? Those little passive aggressive things where it's more of a partnership between equals instead of her seeing herself as an understudy. Think about with AEW, for instance, Mariah May and Toni Storm. That sort of relationship.
Let's go to next question. The final one from Junaid. Given WWE's recent focus on Naomi Bailey's friendship, why was Naomi apparently unconcerned about her friend? All right. I guess it was more a comment than a question. WWE heard of something called e-signatures. This is 21st century WWE. But anyway, I do like the fact that LA Knight is getting this title shot, and I think he should win. But I've been trained by WWE to believe if a champion is pinned in a non-title match, then they're going to retain the title in the match. I did think the promo went way too long, though. All he had to say was he had a contract and he'll get Logan Paul to sign it, but they did get there in the end. So do you think WWE will continue its tradition of 50-50 booking with Logan Paul getting his win back at SummerSlam? Rich?
I think Logan Paul's going to lose, and at some point he's going to challenge for the World Heavyweight title. Whether it's him being traded over to Raw or something of that nature closer to Netflix time, they're going to want as many of those heavy hitters as possible on that side. And I think Logan's an easy one for them to move, given he isn't there as much relative to the other pieces of the puzzle on the SmackDown side of things. So, yeah, I think that there is that opportunity. I think it's time for him to eat a little bit and take an L. And I think LA Knight getting that reward is a nice attaboy for the work he's done the last 8 to 12 months.
Cool. All right. Rich, anything else you want to bring up from SmackDown tonight?
No, I thought it was a really good show. Solid 2 hours flew by.
Yeah. I looked at the lineup ahead of time. I'm like, okay, tag team title rematch. Is that filler or is something else up? Something else was up. Bloodline appeared, but more in an angle that, if they had a segment planned, it turned into more of an angle. Then you had the celebration and the follow-up of Tiffany's win. It was just a solid breeze of a 2-hour show that accomplished some things, but wasn't trying to be more than it needed to be this week. So, good show. Rich, thank you very much. Been great. Oh, sorry. I left this on the screen, so I wanted to close with this. Acme Toon says, I still think Chelsea should have won Money in the Bank. Tiffany doesn't need it to win the title. Now, obviously, they have something in mind for Tiffany in terms of how the story plays out, probably with Nia Jax. Maybe not. Maybe it's going to be with Bailey too. Or who knows? She named all 3 champions. But there was potential that we lost out on with Chelsea, and we didn't bring it up, but Chelsea was waiting outside Nick Aldis's office with Piper Niven. Pretty Deadly were then next in line waiting to pitch a musical, which was wonderful. And then they overheard, and I like that they overheard in the background Bailey saying, Nick Aldis isn't even here this week to Jade Cargill. And then Chelsea, in a huff went in and came out and was upset. I thought that was a fun little thing, but it did show, Chelsea Green with Money in the Bank could have been fun. So that was my other pick to win. It was either going to be, everybody's. It was going to be Chelsea or Tiffany. What'd you think?
Yeah, I am also fully in the Chelsea Green club. I think she has done a phenomenal job. We talked earlier on everything about. I think she has very similar mannerisms and behaviors to Mia Goth's roles in Pearl, Maxine, and X. I really got that appreciate that for the folks on the visual side of things on YouTube. I believe that Chelsea Green, without the Money in the Bank, is still going to find ways to prosper. Because I look at the way they're using her on the show. It isn't just the comedy act. She's still a little bit of a connective tissue to some of the main stories. So there is that opportunity. It may not be with a Money in the Bank. It may be something eventually where she either earns a title match or I don't think it'll be the tag titles. I think there'll be something that pops up and kind of gives her that opportunity. Now, maybe she wins it and then Tiffany cashes in on her, which would be again, the ultimate speak to the manager moment for her, because it's like, I had this shot, and then now out of nowhere, you guys let this Money in the Bank cash in occur. How dare you? But yeah, I think she's done a great job, and she took what could have been just one signature spot in a very crazy pay-per-view and has turned it into something that's just so wonderful. I think from her time at Tough Enough to her evolution on the indie scene to her return to the WWE, Chelsea has gone from giving herself opportunities from a comedy role to being a full-fledged player, so to speak, on the troupe that you really need to use.
A couple comments in the chat room. Ken says, I believe in Chelsea. That blue neck brace is great. Adding, if only Chelsea had a walking boot and had crutches just to really go overboard. That'd be fun. Another super chat from Sean. Thank you. Chelsea is so good. Go VIP, everyone. And Ken says, oh, cheap plug alerts. Go VIP. We did have someone... GWF ESPN 1992. Love it. VIP member going to join one of these nights when my wife isn't sleeping. Go VIP. I came back in from listening to Wade and Stephanie until 12:30 on Wednesday, and she gave me this look. LOL. So we're getting close to 12:30 Eastern right now, Rich. We will end on that note. I will throw the VIP banner up to close things out. PWTorch.com/go VIP. So much great content you are missing out on. And so many specialty shows. We have a new 7-star podcast covering New Japan. So much more. I won't get into plugging all of it. You can read all the details at pwtorch.com/go VIP. Rich, thank you once again. We've done a lot of podcasts this week. It's been great. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Wade.